Voices drift on winds untamed, words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Journey where no bounds are found. Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.
Welcome to Meta Mysteries, where you don't know what you don't know. My name's Jonathan.
I'm Sean.
And today, we're still waiting on a few people to get in here, but it's going to be an awesome show tonight, dude.
Can't wait.
We actually were planning on having a repeat offender come back on the show, but she ended up getting a little sick and didn't want to come across, as like low energy kind of thing. I was like, hey, save it for the good stuff. We'll get into that next time.
We've all been there.
So, but this time I was really thinking about, what can we do for this episode? And it's something that like we're both so stoked like to learn about all this kind of shit. And so tonight we're going to be getting into the DMT realm, baby. Oh, you're muted there, buddy. Son of a bitch.
Shit. This whole time I was saying stuff too.
Oh, were you?
Maybe it was a good thing. Maybe it worked out this way, better this way. But so yeah, dude, it's one of those things that the thing I find the most fascinating is the different archetypes and the various things that happen within this realm. Like it seems like everybody can somewhat have a very unique experience, and then also there are a lot of people that share stories that are very much the same as other people's as far as like the entities that you meet in these realms, and that I think is one of the most fascinating bits of the DMT realm.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've only ever tried like DMT once, but I didn't see any entities. Maybe if I did it again, which I'm gonna be real with you, I'm kind of coming around to wanting to do it again.
Are
like,
you
as
really?
horrific as that was,
Oh
like
my
just
God.
doing research for this show, I'm like,
Mhm.
I could fucking do it again. Let's do it, baby.
Just don't do as much this time. I think that's where you went wrong, my dude. You know,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
will be honest with you, man. After you sharing your story and your experience, that kind of made me like think twice, dude. Like at the moment, I'm just like, I'm pretty hesitant about it.
Well, to be honest, and that's kind of the inspiration as to why I wanted to do this show. I mean, a little bit for me, obviously, out of my own curiosity, trying to understand this at a deeper level, scientifically, and esoterically and magically and consciously and all the lees, right?
Mhm.
But I was just like, dude, we gotta understand this a little bit more, because with a lot of there's like a lot of science really going into this, and we've talked about it before about the whole DMTX thing.
Yep.
With Danny Goler and Electro Nick.
Mm.
And it seems like, I actually thought that was like about to happen, dude. That they've been doing that for like 3 years now.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, I thought they've been doing it. Yeah, they're like pretty much trying to map the DMT realm, which I'm gonna be honest, I don't fully understand that, dude. How can this space be mapped out?
Well-
Is that from your point in space as you're doing the trip, and then you map out whatever you see there, or how exactly are they doing that? I wonder.
Well, we're gonna get a little bit around it. I think that was kind of their initial claim, is that they were planning on mapping it out like GTA style. And from what I've been able to find, that's not necessarily been the case.
Okay.
They're coming to like a lot of like scientific epiphanies, and I guess science is really starting to dig this kind of research. As far as including the conscious mind into science,
Right.
which for some reason they've neglected. It
Right.
doesn't make any sense why they would neglect it, really.
I think the troubling thing about that with science and everything else is that I think they fully understand that this world is definitely much more than just the matter of fact physical shit that you see. I know that they are aware of that. It's just the actually coming out and saying like, okay, well, actually it's not what we thought, because there's so many things. I've seen so many science documentaries and stuff about the Big Bang and stuff about black holes and stuff, you name it, and even quantum physics. There's this thing on, I think it's Amazon Prime, and this guy's pretty much just doing a lecture on quantum physics, and there's several times where he's just like, we're kind of at odds as far as what we agree on and the different theories. And so I think they hit that spot where we are as well, as far as there's something we just don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that string theory and quantum physics are really diving super deep into what consciousness actually means, what reality actually means, because and that's the thing, especially within quantum mechanics, is that you see that there's this whole other reality literally in the tiniest portion of what we don't even really pay attention to. Like the quantum realm is something that is absolutely real, and the laws of our physics don't abide by it, right?
According to classical physics, right? Yeah,
Like
it does. It just doesn't make sense.
It's its own completely different realm, right?
Yes.
And so that's what's kind of crazy about it, is that how could you have realities stacked on top of each other? Literally, the quantum realm is everywhere. It's just so tiny we don't even really pay attention to it, right?
Right.
It's everywhere, yet the physics are completely different, almost as if it's an entirely different reality, right?
Right.
And that's really the fascinating thing about it, is because how is it that we have all these different realities all around us? Like and I know, like, we into the world that we dive into, we don't believe in chance, we don't believe in coincidence. There is absolutely more to this reality than what most people suspect, right? It's not just some spinning rock that is floating endlessly in space forever. You know what I mean? It's so much more than that. And so that's really the most fascinating thing. And so this is why I wanted to get into our understanding of the DMT realm. Now, that being said, I did want to... Oh, no, did I exit out? No. All right. I do have some research that for some reason... oh, wait. There's a history button that I can just hit on there. But yeah, so let's see if it'll pop up. Nope. Son of a biznatch. Well, that's just my luck.
That's how shit happens, dude.
Yeah. So, Sean, why don't you tell us about how your day has been while I look this up again?
I mean, it's been pretty uneventful, dude. I spent 8 hours just working my ass off, and actually, I wanted to get into that. When I started this job, actually, I feel like, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just because I'm so consumed by the amount of work and all of that, but I don't know. I feel like I haven't been having as many synchronicities, and maybe it's just because I have less time to be aware of it. Like when I'm at work and I don't have time to just sit there and be aware and pay attention to every little thing. I'm like focused in on what I'm doing, And so, yeah, I don't know what that's all about. But as far as I used to see synchronicities like nonstop every single day, and I don't know, this last month, I feel like it slowed down quite a bit. That, or they're just different, and I'm not noticing it. You know what I mean? Like they're deeper.
Well, what are you doing to try and grab back hold of that?
See, that's the thing. When I'm at work, dude, it's such a closed off environment, like where I'm working, and it's loud and there's all kinds of shit happening all the time. People are banging on these things trying to make these fasteners, and it's like I don't know, maybe it's cuz I'm outside, but where I am outside, it's like still kind of closed off, and I don't see as much. When I'm on my lunch break, I try to pay attention to just nature and looking at the birds and trying to pull something out of it, But yeah, for whatever reason, dude, the last month, I feel like I just have not been catching on to very many synchronicities.
Well,
and I used to think that it was because, oh, well, once you're aware, then it's like nonstop and they just keep coming. But just in my experience, I don't know, maybe it's just the environment I'm in. To be honest, there's a lot of people that are negative around me too. Like I've noticed that. Like there's certain people you can't even really talk to because they're just like, they just seem unfriendly, but maybe that's just an internal thing. I don't know, but
well, I mean, it's also it's an ongoing adventure that we're on, and just because you reach one state doesn't mean that you stay there forever. It's kind of like a continuous thing, and that's why obviously meditation is going to be key through a lot of this. Your what you're eating, what kind of exercise you're getting, and so you're getting a lot of exercise at work, so that's really
way
good.
more. Oh yeah, way more. I think I've lost like 25 pounds already in like almost 3 months.
Go ahead with your bad self.
I know, right? So I'm trying, dude. But other than that, I think, like I said, most of it has to do with just the environment I'm in. I don't know. I'm not really too sure. But before I used to like roam around a little bit and kind of see different things and drive here and drive there. And now I'm kind of just stuck in one spot, in one location. And I think that kind of limits what you're able to see. But
Do you think that it's a mindset thing? Do you think that because you're such a what are they called? Starts with an E that I cannot think of.
empath.
Empath. Yeah,
Mm,
you're such an empath. You're almost like magnetizing all the energy around you, and you're almost
yeah.
incorporating it into your own self, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think that
so,
has a lot to do with it, you
but
know?
maybe like on your lunch break, do a little meditation, a little tenor.
Yep.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, and there's no excuse for it. I get like a 45-minute lunch, so I should be at least putting in 15, but I just thought I'd share that because I really thought once it started, it just kind of was nonstop, from that point on. And so I don't know, maybe my experience was valuable to somebody in case someone else isn't having quite as many synchronicities as they used to. So yeah,
Hey,
take it
look,
for what you will.
if it was nonstop, then the Buddhist monks wouldn't devote their entire life to it. They would just get there
Yeah,
once after a couple of weeks and be like, "Oh, I got it."
that's it.
You know?
You did it. You won.
So, you
You know.
fucking did it, yeah. You ever heard that
Yeah.
song? So all right, let's I want to share this, dude. And I actually reached out to this individual. It is called the Third Eye Open TikTok, and I was like, this is
I
calling
like
my
it.
name. This is calling me right now.
Right.
This is going to be freaking sweet. But anyway, before we do get into that, I do want to say thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. It's very nice to see everybody here, and I'm sure there's going to be a few more probably going to be trickling in. We, as I said earlier in the show, we did have a guest scheduled. She got a little sick, didn't want to bring that kind of bad energy or whatever to the show. I said, hey, that's all right. This is going to be going on until the day you die. So don't worry about
Yeah.
that. I didn't say that, but yeah. And so we decided we're going to dive into the DMT realm tonight. We're going to dive into some of the testimony, some of the science behind it. We're going to look a little bit into the DMTX, which is a wild thing that is going on over in London, if I'm not
Mm,
mistaken.
yeah. It's one of
And
those things for me that I've always heard about, but it just never really dug too deep into really fully understanding what it is they're really doing over there.
bro, it is they're doing so your typical DMT trip will last anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes typically.
Mhm.
Mine only lasted like 2 or 3 minutes each time. But what they're doing is that they are putting the people that are volunteering for this, because why wouldn't you? I would love to.
Mm.
They're going there for an hour at a time. So you are literally, it's an intravenous continual drip of DMT for 60 minutes straight. Okay.
Mm.
Now to put that in perspective, an hour is an eternity in the realm
In the
of
DMT
eternity.
realm.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, dude.
dude, 2 or 3 minutes can feel like several lifetimes. So
And
whenever you're doing it for 60, I mean,
right.
imagine the research and all the information they've been able to compile. It's so amazing.
I
Y-
wonder what some of those people have been saying as far as like how long that really felt to them.
Well,
Like any of their testimony.
we're going to be getting into that a little bit. There
Awesome.
is the website DMTX, and so yeah, this is going to be an all-encompassing DMT episode. Everything that you ever wanted to know about DMT, this is the episode for it. Now,
All right.
that being said, I do want to preface this for those that don't know. DMT is something that naturally occurs within our body. It occurs not only in the pineal gland. I actually just found this out today. It actually it's inside of a couple of other organs inside of you as well.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm
like
sure the heart is one of them.
no, actually.
No.
Yeah, it's like
Really?
weird ones like your liver or some shit.
Oh. Okay.
Which is pretty crazy. Also, DMT, it exists in literally all of nature, within grass, within trees, like literally like anything. It all has tiny trace amounts of DMT. And so we're going to get into the guy that wrote a book called The Spirit Molecule, DMT. His name is Rick Strassman. And a lot of that kind of information and stuff. And yeah, so this, like I said, it's going to be all encompassing. I want everybody to know that this is not us trying to tell everybody that you need to try DMT. It's just a natural curiosity. You're allowed to be
Yep.
curious without trying it, you know?
Yep. Yep. As I
And
said, I don't even want to try it, at least right now. You know, like if I'm absolutely called to it, like I get to a certain point where I'm like, okay, I think it's time, then, you know, but as of right now, I think I'm just chilling. You know?
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you'll know. You'll know when the time is right. If it
Right.
does come. Like, because it's not something that you just do on a whim. Like,
Right.
you have to want to do it for a while. You know what I'm saying? Before you take
Yeah,
that
and that's the
next
thing. It's
step.
like I wanted to do it for a while. Like I really did. And then I heard your story and say what you want about like how much you took or whatever. But after hearing that story, dude, I was like, I don't know. That seems like very life altering. Like
Well,
almost too much.
and I don't want you to just listen to my testimony because, and that's what we're going to be getting into. So I'm going to share the screen right meow. And dude, this is some of the craziest shit you'll ever hear in your life.
All right.
I just want to let you know that. It is, if I can open the damn thing. Here we go. All right, so this is the guy, the Third Eye Open TikTok account that I reached out to, got permission. He said, hell yeah, share it with everybody. And so, yeah, he has just a few testimonies here. They're really awesome. The first one we're going to get into is Theo Vaughn's DMT experience. He's a hilarious individual.
Yeah.
The way his mind works with words, it's like poetic in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Dude,
like
he has the ability to make anything funny. You know, even if he
Hilarious.
doesn't even think he's being funny, he's just talking.
That's
you
just
know?
how
It's
his
like
mind
the
be.
most hilarious thing ever.
Right. So we're gonna listen to him right now.
Basically, the whole way I interact with the world is through my eyes, ears. Okay? Suddenly, like, there was no difference between like me and like a sound or like a color. Like everything was all just the same thing. And a tree, I died, and then a tree grew straight out of my mouth, up straight up into the air, as high as, and it wasn't even the air anymore. It was just like this traveling, this portal into like, I don't even know. There was no maps. It was all a map. It was all a map, dude. It was all a sound. It was like,
There's no fucking. What the fuck you doing? There's no maps.
there's no, like, all of your senses are just one thing. Like right now I experience the world from me. I see, I touch, I have a sense of things. But suddenly I wasn't the main, I could experience everything, but as everything. Suddenly I'm no longer rooted to myself. I was just part of it all, man.
Let's go, dude.
Does that seem familiar to you? Like from his experience? Or did you still feel like you experiencing something?
It's well, the second trip, the scary one where I was in the void, I knew that I was the only thing that existed.
Mm-hmm.
You know
So
what I'm
in
saying?
that case, you were everything.
In that case, yeah. You know,
Wow.
like, and that's taken me a while to really get to that place because for the longest time it's just been a nightmare. But now I'm super separated from it. I'm able to look at it for what it was, and so in that
Right.
sense, I kind of was everything, in in a weird way.
Right.
The first time was different. It was more like a 4ACO trip. Like the first time I did it was more like a 4ACO trip. The next time I did it was a DMT trip. You know, so that's
Okay.
really the best way I can describe it. But
That
all right.
sounds to me real quick. It kind of, I don't know, say what you want, but what he just described, I imagine that's what God would experience. You know, like God experiences everything, but he is everything.
Oh
know?
yeah, God, he, she, it, whatever the fuck. I mean,
Everything.
it's whenever like you can use the word God and the word everything together.
Mhm.
Like that's the way that whenever you go through one of these psychedelic experiences, you understand that there is no separation of anything.
Mhm.
Like everything is one thing. They're like
Right.
it's the illusion that we're these individuals in this real life. And it's hard to
Right.
see that, you're me, I'm you, the tree is me. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yep.
a weird thing to say that, but you're seeing it from an entirely different perspective. You're seeing
Mhm.
it from the everything.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, and I think that those are the two ways to view God. You know, because a lot of people will say God is separate or God is on the outside of whatever all of this is. You know, but the way I see it, and the other way to see it is that it is everything. You know, it's not something on the outside creating this thing. I think it's something that just is everything.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm of the same taste there, sir. So all right, let's get into this next one. And I just want to be able to show like some of the testimonies so you're not only going off of mine, because mine was like, you know, an outlier. You know what I mean? Which is why, like, and that should say something right there too. That the fact that I'm willing to go back in there, I know that it was an outlier. I know that it was my. You know what it really was? It was that I was holding on too tightly to this reality, and you have to surrender. Like you have to surrender literally everything. You need to surrender, like. And I'm not talking about literally, but I'm talking about whenever you're trying to shift into another reality and you know that you're only going there temporarily, you need to surrender your connection to your significant other, to your kids, to your job, to your identity, to your ego, to everything. Right. It's like,
think of another time that you're given to just experience absolute nothingness. You know, like not very many people experience that.
It's like, I'll put it to you like this. In a bastardized way, imagine, you know, you're married, you have 3 kids, right? You have a couple of dogs, you have a couple cats, you know, you're surrounded
by... It's like Ace
by...
Ventura over here, dude.
Yeah. You're surrounded by a lot. But there are times where you get in your car and you drive to the grocery store by yourself. You know, you're not going with anybody. Are you giving up on your family whenever you take a little ride over to Walmart or whatever?
No.
It's
I
just
understand that when I get home, that will be there.
And this is the same thing. It's just that the thing is that you have to first of all surrender to that idea and accept that they're not going to none of this reality is going to be there. Nothing. Like literally zero of this reality will exist in this other reality. And so that's kind of, that's hard to break away from because we have, you know, like we're comfortable with a lot of our reality. We built our reality in such a way that makes us as comfortable as humanly possible. Right.
And that's all gone in there.
Gone.
Frame of reference, gone.
Gone all the way.
Ego, gone.
Yeah. Like you're gone. So here's another one. Let's check it out.
My experience with DMT begins in Vancouver. And in Vancouver, I had a friend, and he had these vape pens with DMT cartridges. So it looked like a normal vape, but it was filled with DMT. I had never tried it, and I was very curious. I don't remember what brought me to it. Maybe I heard it on Joe Rogan, but I cannot be sure. And here I was, about to try this DMT vape pen. I was living with roommates at the time, and it was a busy house, and it did not feel like the right environment to do it in. So what I did was, around 11 p.m., I drove my car to some quiet spot, and I parked it. I put on some good music. And in the bubble of the car, you know, it's dark, it's parked on some obscure street, there's no one around, and I'm holding this DMT vape pen. I put on some music, and I breathed in. And what happened was so extraordinary for me because I was able to see frequency and vibration. These are things I had read about in books like Abraham Hicks and, you know, a lot of these law of attraction books, a lot of esoteric texts. They talk about how reality is mental. It's made from the mind, it's made from energy, it's made from consciousness, and that it's all just frequency and vibration. But it's one thing to read about it and listen to the teachers and the gurus and the authors. It's a whole other thing to experience it yourself, first person, and to realize, oh my God, all these books were true. The easiest way I can describe it is that for a few minutes on DMT, I could perceive that reality was a hologram. There was nothing really solid about reality. You know, up until that point, I had lived in a 3D tangible world, and I treated the world very, very solidly. And on this substance, I was seeing things that I cannot even describe. But it was not hallucinations. This is the thing that those who have not done any psychedelics might roll their eyes at, but it was not as if something was being made up, like some sort of mirage. It very much felt like a stripping away, like as if there was layers of reality, and the DMT briefly was allowing me to see beyond the veil and to see the raw source code of reality. This was the really cool part for me. I felt like I was looking at the code.
Let's go, dude.
That is pretty fucking amazing, dude. He said
Yeah.
the stripping away of, so it's like this thing that's always there, and now he's experiencing the very same thing, but just without all the extras, basically.
Well, and that's the amazing thing about going into a realm like this, and uncovering the undeniable truth that you're part of something so amazing. It's just that, we get so accustomed to seeing this reality, this physical brick and mortar type of reality, the highs and the lows and everything in between, the boring times, the exciting time, all of that, right?
Mhm.
We're so accustomed to that. And then, we tend to forget, exactly like how amazing this place is. And so then we start to go into this, like lazy stupor almost, like not lazy, but just like not appreciative in a sense. And it's not until you are able to experience a literal other reality and see this reality melt away that you are now shifted into this other realm that you can truly see the beauty that is like just to be able to live. And almost like it's almost like a baptism. Like literally you go in there and the waters wash away all of the negative thoughts, all the dirty thoughts, everything that doesn't help you in any kind of way. It is something that washes over you as if it is like a baptism. It's really the only thing that I can really even compare it to in a sense, because the idea around baptism is that, you get dunked in the water and then you come up free and sinless and all that other stuff, right? Yep. I believe that psychedelics were the root behind baptism in the first place.
Wow. Yeah, I never even thought of that. And what he said too, as far as like, it's not an illusion. It's not like your mind playing a trick on you, and people would scoff at that. And like, that's one of those common things that you hear, unless you've tried it, that's the only time that you'll fully understand just the vastness and the importance of whatever this experience is, whatever it is, whatever's happening. You have to just experience it yourself, because there's things that you would see, I guess, that are so beautiful or geometric, or and it's like, I don't even think my mind could make that up, and so what? So then what is that? You are just seeing reality.
And we're going to tap into what is scientifically going on in the brain. Why are you able to experience this? Is it actually just a hallucinogenic? Well, whenever sensors are hooked up to the brain with the little nodules, it shows that literally almost your entire brain lights up. So on a regular day-to-day basis, whenever you're in the the beta state of mind, the alpha state of mind, whatever, your waking mind, whenever you're in that state of mind, only a small portion of your mind is firing.
Right.
Like your brain is firing, right?
Yep.
Well, whenever they were trying to scan the brain on DMT, literally it's like it goes from 6, 7, 8% of the brain firing to over 90% of the brain is firing.
Wow.
So it's not that you're hallucinating. It's that literally the way we perceive reality is more of a hallucination than what you're seeing in that realm.
Or at the very least, it's a very limited sliver that you get to perceive. And now, because your brain's lit up the way it is, it's just igniting, and you're able to see so much more.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's connecting a lot of things. It's allowing things to work together rather than like, oh, I'm just using my left brain. I'm more analytical. I'm just using my right brain. I'm more intuitive, whatever, right? Like it's syncing
just
everything. Yeah, but it does say that your right brain is absolutely more dominant whenever you're on DMT, obviously.
Of
you know,
course.
like there's no logic in this realm, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to be like, oh yeah, that works that way because that works that. No, like you don't know shit about fuck whenever you're in this realm, dude. So we're gonna play one more, and then we're gonna get to some of the research, and then we'll come back and listen to a couple more. But I wanna hear this Jim Belushi one because I freaking love this guy.
And this is the story of the first time I did ayahuasca. Did the whole ceremony, and he did this whole ritual, and he explained the ayahuasca plant. You think about what you'd like to have healed, and you blow into it. My eyes closed and saw geometric figures. And then all of a sudden my mind started talking to me, my ego. My ego was starting not to like this. What are you doing down here? And the shaman said, what's going on? I said, well, I got all these chattering monkeys. And they're saying all kinds of nasty stuff. And he started singing an Icaros. I don't like the messages that the monkeys were giving me. They're getting a message from the gorilla. Let's go gorilla hunting. I wanted to go deep into what is the bed of my anger or doubt or fears. He said, do you see the geometric shapes? I said, yes. He said, if you really focus in on the emptiness between the lines, and I went, poof. I just like astral traveled into blackness. But the one image that I still live with today, I saw a long conference table like in a business office, and I'm at the head of the table, and there's these kind of spirits. And the shaman said, what's going on, Jim? And I said, these things. He goes, those are your spirits. Jealousy spirit, the sad spirit, the kind spirit, loving spirit, the angry spirit. I get it. I said, how do I get rid of them? He said, you don't get rid of them. You embrace them. They're you. But when you're done with them, you got to put them back and take control. The next night, we were down there with the gorillas. I saw my mom. I saw my brother John. And those two figures were the gorillas that I was releasing. And at that moment, I found beautiful joy, compassion, love, and forgiveness. Not only for them, but for myself. Yeah, man. And then,
Dude, that is so good. I love
How
hearing
therapeutic.
dude, it's full on breakthrough type stuff. You know, and I could just listen to those all day, dude. I really could. So
We say it all the time, dude. You know, you don't know what you don't know, and you live life a certain way, and there are certain chemicals firing, and there are certain triggers that you're having whenever you see something, and so then you go through an experience like that where you're able to let go of some sort of trauma or some sort of thing that you're just holding on to with dear life, you know, and then you finally let go of that, and now your life is just so different, and it's brand new.
Yeah. And sometimes you fall away from it. Sometimes you forget that feeling. It's elusive, you know. It's so profound whenever you're going through that kind of experience, but it is elusive because you got to get back to reality, you know, you got to get back to work and take care of the kid, you know, all the shit. And so you start to almost like lose grasp of that. But there's something in there to where you have to remind yourself every now and again to go back to that place where you were, because that was a true experience. And maybe you get back there through meditation or in the dream world, or maybe you go on another journey, right? But it is there, and I'm happy that it is.
Yeah,
you know,
it's good to know that it's there in the first place. Yeah.
So first off, before we get into the science of it, I just want to go into a lot of the religions that have used psychedelics or altered states to be able to get into this realm that we call the DMT realm, right?
All right.
And there's a bunch of different ways. It's not only by DMT, it's not only by mushrooms or ayahuasca or, LSD or whatever. You can get there through pretty rigorous type meditations and chanting and everything else too. And so we're going to get into it. So altered states of consciousness have been central to religious and mystical experiences for millennia, often achieved through rituals, trance, fasting, chanting, dance, and yes, psychedelics. So the altered states of consciousness in religion. It says nearly every major religious or spiritual tradition has practices designed to shift consciousness to commune with the divine. And here are a couple of examples. So the first examples we're going to be talking about are not going to be talking about taking a psychedelic, but still shifting their mind into a trance-like state that is very similar to this DMT realm that we talk about. So these are the mystical states without substances. So obviously, first one is Christianity, like mystery school type Christianity, or maybe Christianity whenever it first started, I would imagine. But so you would do it through fasting, prayer, and chanting. Those are all ways to get into altered states, obviously, right? And that's why the Bible talks about, why you need to fast, why you need to pray. And chanting, think about it, dude, you go to a Baptist church. I mean, that's full on chanting in there. You know what I'm saying?
Vibes, dude. Yeah.
And it's not just Baptist. That's just my ex. That's where she went. So that was my experience. Then you have Sufism. Sufism, I think is how you say it. But it's basically like what the Kabbalah is to Jewish mysticism is Sufism to Islam.
Oh, okay.
All right. So it's just the esoteric version of Islam.
Okay.
And a lot of people that are religiously Islam, they don't accept Sufism, but some of them do. Some of them do. But in Sufism, and I could be saying that wrong, I think it's Sufism or Sufism, I'm not sure. But anyway, so they have this thing to where it's called whirling. So it's a whirling dervish dance that puts them into a trance, literally.
Oh, all right.
And then you have what is called a zikr, Zikr, I think is how you say it. But it's basically you just keep on repeating the divine names, almost like maniacally, you know? Right. So it's like Abraham, you know what I mean? Or some shit like that. You just continue and going on. Yeah. Then you have within Judaism, the Kabbalah. So the Kabbalistic teachings, what they would do to put themselves into a light trance, they would chant Hebrew letters and they would have ecstatic prayer. Those are just a couple of the ways that they would do it. And then Buddhism, you would have a deep meditation or samadhi, visualization, and dream yoga, altered states of consciousness, right? And then you have Taoism, which, dude, that was one of my favorite episodes ever. I love learning about that.
That was a fun one, man.
Yeah. So the Taoists, they have breath work, sexual alchemy, and meditative absorption. I have to learn about that one.
Meditative absorption.
Yeah, it's a different one. Then you have Hinduism. So within Hinduism, you have yoga, you have mantras, Kundalini rising, and then also a little bit of Tantra, baby.
Oh, all right.
And then shamanism, you have drumming, isolation, trance states, and spirit journeys. So these are all altered states of consciousness that these religions are somehow, some way, without the use of any kind of plant medicine, they're getting there.
Right. Fuck yeah, dude. It makes sense, dude, that all of these different belief systems would have a branch of trying to get to this state of altered state of mind.
Oh, dude. Yeah, for sure. You have to, dude, you can't be logic minded and understand where we came from. It's just never going to happen.
You know what's funny? It's funny you say that because one of my coworkers, he's a Catholic and we talk all the time just because he is Catholic and my other coworker, he's a Christian. And so I've been kind of bouncing stuff back and forth with them and just asking them questions, out of respect, not like, not any gotcha things or anything like that, but just trying to learn their perspective and understand what they believe. And he said that. He said, you seem like you're probably more of a logical guy. I mean, he doesn't know I do a podcast. I kind of keep those two worlds separate, but he said, you seem like you're more of a logical minded. And he said, in order to understand God, you can't have a worldly mind. And so it just sounded exactly like what you just said.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. You cannot have a worldly mind. And that's, to be honest, that's like a lot of the religions teach that. Like, don't be in this world, but not of this world, is what they say.
Right.
So here are some of them. It says that there are at least 20 to 30 ancient and indigenous traditions that are known or strongly believed to have used psychoactive plants or substances as sacraments.
Of course.
Okay, so the first one they're going to get into is from Greece, the Eleusinian Mysteries. They had this thing called Kekion, I think is how you say it, which was, it says it was likely ergot or an LSD-like brew.
Okay.
And it says it was used for secret rites for Demeter and Persephone. Okay. You're trying to get in touch with them. This is how you do it. You have Vedic Hinduism. They would partake in soma, which I might have to look into. I've heard about it before.
We touched on that. Yeah, very briefly.
Yeah, it's a psychedelic that I'm not too aware of. But anyway, they would use soma, and it says it's described in the Rig Veda, which is, one of their books, as divine nectar.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, baby. The nectar of the gods. Then in Mexico, it's the religion called Mazatec. That's a new one to me. I never heard of that one.
All right.
They would use psilocybin mushrooms, and they use those to communicate with spirits and heal.
All right. They know what's up.
They know what's up. Then you got the wild ones over in the Amazon, the Amazonian tribes with the ayahuasca. And they would use the DMT brew. The shamans would administer and use the DMT brew.
I'm kind of interested in that, dude, to be honest with you. I know it's a whole thing and you got to fast, I think, for like a day or something like that beforehand, and it makes you sick, but I'm still kind of intrigued by it. Just the whole going out and doing that, dude.
I think maybe one day, but that's like, to be honest, bro, I would rather do DMT 50 times before I try ayahuasca once.
Really?
Yeah. Because you think about like ayahuasca, DMT is only lasting, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca, you're there for a weekend, bro.
Yeah.
You're a weekend. You are tripping your nuts off.
Sometimes you need something just a little deeper, I'm just worried I'm going to go out there and just start screaming and shit. You know what I mean? Like all the trauma is just oozing out that I didn't even know I had,
It'd be very cleansing.
That's true. Yeah.
So then you have the Native Americans obviously using peyote. Peyote was used as a legal sacrament in modern day U.S. church. So even still, they're using it, the peyote, as a sacrament in church.
It makes sense, dude. It makes sense. If something's going to get you into thinking that there's this divine nature, in this reality, that this is the way. Yeah, this is one of the ways.
At least one of the ways. Then you have the Siberian shamans, which they would use the Amanita muscaria mushrooms. Which, if anybody doesn't know, Amanita muscaria, that's the red mushrooms with the white dots all over it. That's actually that's how we got like a lot of our Christmas lore, was because what they would do is that they would bring them in. So and a lot of people would trade them for other things, but they would basically bring them in. They would hang them above the fireplace, and that's where we got the idea of stockings, is because they were trying to dry out these Amanita muscaria mushrooms. And another fun thing about the Amanita muscaria is that reindeer love them. They're like addicted to them, bro. They love them so much that they'll eat it, and then whenever they go and pee, they'll drink their own piss to try and get high again.
Oh my God. They'll think they're flying.
That's where it comes from.
Holy shit.
The reindeer flying, it's the same thing as like the witches flying, right? It's the ointment.
The flying ointment.
It's the flying ointment, and that's what gave, the witches on a broomstick, right? Well, it's just because, women back in those days were always in the kitchen. They were always sweeping. They were always cleaning. They always had a broomstick in their hand. It just so happened from time to time they like to partake with a little bit of flying ointment, and they'd go
That was
flying.
a trip, dude. When we first learned that, I was like, "Oh my god, dude."
Yeah. Yeah,
a
and
trip.
dude, it's weird too because they could take it by mouth, but from what we heard, they would
That
hike
wasn't
it.
the way they were doing it.
They would hike it up the old nether regions and really
Yep.
take it home, baby. So yeah, the Amanita muscaria. So they would use that for trance journeying, obviously. Then you have the Zulu and Bantu tribes or traditions that would partake with iboga. And this is something that's actually becoming a lot more popular nowadays, especially for drug addicts and alcoholics and stuff like that, because it is like a super purge. Like it's like, from what I hear, it is way more wild than even ayahuasca is.
Right.
But everybody that comes out of there, you got a heroin addiction? No, you don't.
gone.
You ain't got that no more. It's like,
Right.
it's complete. Like, you go in there with you come out with an
Oh, shit.
understanding, bro.
Right. That gum that you swallowed in second grade, it's
Yeah.
out.
It's out of there.
Nope.
Forget about it. Then you have African tribal rites. They would partake in what is called datura, or they would also use cannabis and other entheogens for initiation and divination rites.
Okay.
And then within the Mayan, Aztec, and Incas, they would use what is called Teonanacatl, which is basically just mushrooms, or another one that's called Olo Liquiqui. I don't know, liqui, something like that, which is
That's probably the best one.
which is morning glory seeds. And then they would also partake in the San Pedro cactus, and they would do this for divine connection and prophecy. So it's not like some harebrained theory that traditions and religions would partake in these psychedelic journeys to be able to connect and get messages from the other side. That's why, if you think about it, there's like, I want to say, dude, I think there's like 3,000 religions in the world right now.
That makes sense. Yeah. And they're all right.
Every one of them's right.
Right.
But that's actually a true statement.
I think so too. Yeah.
Like it is.
That's why I
It
said
is a real statement, though.
Yeah.
So all religions use altered states in some form. Dozens or more ancient traditions use psychedelics as sacred sacraments. These weren't recreational. They were used intentionally in ritual, often with initiation, purification, and guidance. So now I want to get into ergot. All right. This is something that people just love to argue about. Because maybe other religions did it, but not mine.
Not this one.
I'm
Right.
like, well, we've looked at the science records and turns out wrong. Okay.
Right.
Because there is, and it is still allegedly a theory, because just because they found a chalice with some ergot buried with, the priests and the rabbis of the day doesn't mean that they partook. Maybe they were just holding it and staring at it for a little while.
Maybe it's just a strange coincidence.
Yeah.
Those happen.
Somebody, they found the priest and they dug him up and they said, you know what, really fuck this religion up. I'm going to dig his body up. I'm going to put a fucking ergot chalice in his coffin with him. That way somebody comes back, they find it. Hey.
All kinds of confusion.
Right, right. But anyway, so what is ergot? Ergot is a fungus that grows on rye and other grains. It contains alkaloids similar to LSD, especially, what is that word? Lysergic acid amide, which is LSA, which is a milder psychedelic compound. So basically LSD and, its little sister.
And I'm sure this stuff was pretty abundant. I'm sure it was everywhere.
Oh, dude,
depending on the conditions.
Dude, it's literally a mold. Like it's a fungus that grows. And you think about it, like back in those days, they weren't putting all the preservatives in all their bread and all that other shit. Like, bread is supposed to expire after a couple of days. You're not supposed to be able to keep it for weeks,
Right.
And so back in those days, you would have a lot of shit that would expire. And maybe they were like, you know what, that looks disgusting. I want to see what it tastes like. and they found out. But anyway, so what was found? It says in early Christian sites, particularly around Roman era churches and catacombs, archaeologists found residues of ergot and other psychoactive compounds in ceramic chalices and libation vessels, traces of opium, cannabis, and blue lotus in some burial and ritual sites as well.
They knew how to get down.
Bro, I want to try blue lotus one day. I would love to
Isn't
try
isn't
that.
that the stuff that's supposed to help you with your dreams? I think
Yeah,
we covered that before.
yeah. But dude, opium too? Come on now.
Yeah. They weren't playing around, dude.
Yeah, it says this suggests that some early Christian communities may have been ingesting psychoactive sacraments during the Eucharist-like rituals, especially in Gnostic or mystically inclined sectors. So it doesn't necessarily mean that all churches were doing it, but the Gnostic one, of course. That doesn't even surprise me that the Gnostics would be getting down.
I think it's kind of strange that they say they may have. I feel like they obviously were. Like it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's not a hypothesis. They found the chalices, you know?
Mhm.
Where was I going with this one? All right, so who is leading? Oh, okay, that's right. So there are people, doctors and stuff that are leading the research into trying to find out about this ergot and, who really had it and what could they have been using it for and who was really doing it. So you have your boy, Dr. Brian Murarescu. He's the author of The Immortality Key, The Secret History of Religion, of the Religion with No Name. That sounds like a fun book.
Okay.
He worked with archaeochemist. How about that for a title? Archaeochemist, ancient chemistry. He worked with archaeochemist Dr. Andrew Coe from MIT to analyze remains from ancient chalices and found chemical traces of ergot. Their thesis is that Christianity may have inherited a psychedelic Eucharist from the Eleusinian mysteries and Dionysian cults. Early Christian rituals may have blended wine with psychoactives to induce mystical visions, communion with Christ, and ego death. A quote from the book of The Immortality Key, it says, "What if the original body and blood of Christ was a psychedelic sacrament?"
Holy shit.
Shit. Hey, dude. And this is the thing. It doesn't take away from God. I don't know why people think that.
No, I just think it's funny how they decided to do away with that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if that was just a common practice and everybody got to experience this, how different the world would be, But they got rid of it because, well, you can't be, communing with the other side, because already that's demonic. I'm sure psychedelics in their mind is, well, that's demons, and so
Bro, you're gonna go to war and try and take over the world if you are enlightened off of ergot every Sunday?
No.
Hell no. So how does this connect to other traditions? It says the idea isn't isolated. Many pre-Christian Mediterranean mystery schools, such as Eleusis, Dionysus, and Orpheus, used psychoactive brews and sacred rites. These rites were about death and rebirth, mirroring Christian themes exactly. The wine of Christ could have originally been entheogenic wine, inducing real visionary communion. Think about that, bro. You're in church, you see all the stained glass, you're hearing the crazy bells, and it's a whole vibe. Next thing you know, you're drinking this fucking brew. And, you got the priest up there and he's he's reading, John chapter 1 or some shit. And literally you're seeing it play out in front of your eyes as he's reading it.
Jesus just descends from the stained glass,
Bro, that was original VR goggles back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
Augmented reality to the max, dude.
Yeah.
You're a believer for life after that.
Yeah, you can't not believe once
You're
you're
locked
here.
in. You're locked in.
So yeah, it says, why don't we hear about this in mainstream Christianity? Well, as Christianity became institutionalized by Rome, these mystical and Gnostic sects were suppressed or labeled heretical. Their rituals were replaced with symbolic communion, non-psychedelic wine and bread. And then, of course, there was the Council of Nicaea back in 325, year 325. And following centuries, they standardized doctrine, cutting off esoteric elements. And so whenever you hear that there's the Gnostic Gospels of Thomas and I can't remember all the rest of Mary Magdalene and stuff like that, they took it out because they were trying to standardize the doctrine. They actually go so far as to say that they were fake, that they weren't real. They were never meant to be included in the first place. Meanwhile, back in the day, people knew them to be true, or at least a lot of people included them. Now, history and, history buffs, they're going to say, oh, nobody ever included that. Da, 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 da. It's well, dude, back in the year 325, you know, before let's just say in 324, before the Council of Nicaea, which is basically where they got together and reduced the book down to 66 books within the Bible, right?
Okay.
Before that, there were a few more books in there, and there was a lot more shit to go off of. It's just that they decided to standardize it. They decided to make it a symbol rather than an actual communion. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate. And you know what's crazy too is that how it was talking about how, you know, the idea of the Christian Mediterranean schools with the Eleusinian and Dionysian and Orpheus, bro. It's from what I read earlier, they literally absorbed those practices from the Eleusinian, the Dionysian, and Orpheus. They absorbed these practices and then just decided to do away with all the esoteric shit. It's like that's really all they were really caring about. You know,
and it's funny because that's where a lot of the fucking like the good shit is. You know, there was too many people going in and coming back with some just dropping knowledge. You know, and it's like whoa, wait a minute. You know,
well,
that's too much
because they'd rather you believe than you know.
Right.
That's really what it is.
I don't understand that though. Like, why wouldn't you want to know?
Because because if you knew, there wouldn't be 800 different sectors of the Christian church. There would be no miscommunication. You would all know,
right?
You know. But anyway, I'm not trying to hate on Christianity by any means by saying this. I'm just saying it's a shame what happened to it.
Yeah.
You know, if this is true, I know some people are going to disagree with this kind of stuff. That's fine. But this ain't the podcast for that. So is there physical evidence? It says yes, and the evidence is growing. So chalices, basically like, you know, the old king cups, chalices, from ancient sanctuary of Demeter tested positive for psychoactive alkaloids. And early Christian burial sites in Spain and France, they show fungus, opiates, and cannabinoid residues in ritual vessels. Pretty crazy, right? So it's so what are the implications of it? This is what I want to get to. So if it is true, it suggests that the earliest Christians weren't just remembering Jesus, they were experiencing him in mystical states.
I believe that.
I'll go to church if that's what's going on.
I believe it absolutely. You know, I think if you go looking for, and especially if you know who you're looking for, and you go looking in that state of mind, you're gonna find them. I absolutely believe that. That's another conversation I was having with one of my coworkers as far as, you know, as he was like, you know, have you ever just let go and tried to see what the truth is? You know, like speaking on like accepting Jesus in your heart and all of that, you know? And I said, yeah, but the only problem with that is that if I go in there and I don't experience Jesus, then am I just being tricked? You know? And then he was saying, well, you know, if you are being tricked, it's because Jesus or God knows that you're smart enough to overcome being tricked, you know? And so it's like, no matter what, my answer needs to be Jesus or, you know what I'm saying? And so that whole thing doesn't work, I feel like.
Well, and this is
because I think if I go into that state of mind looking for Jesus, then I'd probably find him too. You know, I think we all could find whoever we're looking for.
I literally just made a video about this and put it on TikTok and Instagram earlier, as far as really searching for the truth at all costs, you know, and not looking at it through a single lens bias, but looking at it, trying to find truth. Whatever truth may be, go out and search for it, right? Doesn't matter where you find it, doesn't matter what book it's in, doesn't matter who is practicing it. There's going to be tidbits of truth throughout all of it. And this is why we always talk about the coexist bumper sticker. Absolutely. It's literally scattered in the winds, bro. Like the truth is scattered in the winds. That's why we talk about all of them, because there is no one thing that incorporates it all. We love Neoplatonism. Is it the answer to everything? No, absolutely not. No. Like we love magic and witchcraft and, you know, even Taoism. I love it. Pantheism. Love it. Is it the entire answer? No, can't be.
It's just one aspect of this reality, you know, but I think that's where the problem is. It's like, if it's not this aspect, the one that I chose, then it's wrong. And, you know, and it's like, I feel like there's more to it than just one answer, you know, and that's what my issue was with that was like, yeah, I can sure I can let go and I can just say, you know, the truth reveal itself. But if it's not the answer you want me to have, then I'm being tricked. And that's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just falls apart.
It's sad. It really
Yeah.
is. But so anyhow, so the implication, oh dude, this is where it's crazy. It says the kingdom, so the implications, if this is true, it says the kingdom of heaven within and the divine union wasn't a metaphor. It was chemically induced gnosis.
I believe that, dude. I mean, we've experienced it in some form or fashion.
Oh, dude, come on now. So this next one, so now that we're done, you know, talking about the religions and how they could have possibly been incorporating hallucinogenics or just altered states of consciousness, now we're going to get into what actually happens on a DMT trip. Now I know that a lot of them weren't using DMT. It's just that this topic is kind of around, the show is going to be about DMT. I just wanted to show how it has been used throughout the past several centuries.
All different cultures. In
all different cultures, for all different, well, I mean, they're all trying to search for the truth in one way or another. And that's the thing. You know, if you see a psychedelic cactus, let's just say you see a cactus and you're like, you know what, I'm going to eat that fucking thing. And then you get all sick and then maybe you start having some hallucinations, or you think are hallucinations, maybe a little bit of fever dream or something like that. Yeah. And then you feel like, you know what, I feel like there was some, I want to go in there again. I want to search that place again. I want to see what's really going on. And it becomes part of literally like it becomes part of like your ritual almost, you know? And now
you're going in there with an intention.
And that's a big one. Like carrying intention is a huge one. And that's what they always say. Like if you're doing DMT or ayahuasca or anything like that, you want to, or mushrooms or anything, you want to go into it with an intention. You want to go into like, what is your intention? Is it just to like release fear, you know, get rid of anxiety, shake off the depression? Do you want to go in there to like, all right, you know, my goal, I want to just open up my third eye. That's it. Just state it, say it out loud, and this is what I'm doing, and almost speak to the medicine itself. It's a living thing.
Yeah. So just let an aspect of reality present itself to you, you know, and just go for the ride.
So during a DMT trip, this is where we're going to get a little scientific. During a DMT trip, the brain undergoes a radical reorganization of activity and connectivity, essentially amplifying consciousness while dramatically altering how you process time, space, self, and reality. Here is a breakdown of what's actually happening in the brain according to current research, including studies from the Imperial College London, which is DMTX.
Love it. I love it already, dude. I want to amplify my consciousness.
Fuck yeah. You know? Let's go, baby. So the first one they bring up is that there is a massive increase in global brain connectivity. So from what I heard earlier, and we may get to it, but there was a couple of quotes from the DMTX guys that basically say that whenever you smoke DMT or take DMT or any kind of psychedelic, what you're essentially doing is that, you know, and I only remember it because he just this one just said the global brain connectivity. But they say that essentially what you're doing is imagine your head or your whole being is a snow globe. And then whenever you take one of these psychedelics, you're shaking it up and letting the snow really come up everywhere.
Yep.
You know,
that makes sense.
But it says there's a massive increase in global brain connectivity. It says regions that don't normally talk much suddenly start firing together. It says the brain becomes hypersynchronous, meaning that sensory, emotional, memory, and imagination centers all light up at once.
Yep. There's so many things, real quick, just in what I've experienced in the past. You know, there's so many things that just made so much sense, dude. And it's hard to really describe that, but it just seemed like so many things that I had never really thought about. But as soon as I thought about it, it was like the answer was right there. You know, it's like you're just connected.
Oh yeah, you feel like you're legit receiving a download.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, dude. Yeah, definitely.
It says this creates a blended, immersive sensory experience, like seeing thoughts, hearing geometry, or feeling time collapse. You thought your nose was for smelling. Then number 2, it says the default mode network, or DMN, it dissolves. So it says the default mode network is your brain's ego hub. It's responsible for your sense of self, time, narrative identity, and boundaries. On DMT, this network goes offline, and it leads to ego death, a feeling of oneness or unity, and timelessness or the collapsing of past and future.
Oh my god, dude. to list one of Adam Butler's chapters in his book, Who the Fuck Am I? You know.
You're not. Whatever it is, you're not.
Yeah.
Number 3, the visual cortex goes into overdrive. It says, even with your eyes closed, DMT activates the visual cortex intensely. This creates the geometric patterns, fractals, and light beings that are so commonly reported. You're essentially hallucinating with full resolution.
Oh, that's awesome.
The thalamus floodgates open. So the thalamus is the brain's sensory gatekeeper. Normally, it filters data so that you're not overwhelmed. On DMT, this filter loosens or breaks down, resulting in an unfiltered flood of raw data from your senses and subconscious.
Oh shit, dude. That's fucking
Because
awesome.
we fill in our reality.
Mhm.
You know that, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like our brain is such an immaculate, like, fucking thing that we have to where if we don't have all the data, your brain just fills it in. So
Yeah.
what this is saying is that all of your senses are all working together. Your conscious, your subconscious, your breathing and your tasting and your seeing and your hearing, like every single thing is working together to allow you to perceive reality as it should be. And for some reason, people call that a hallucination. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
reality, baby.
That's fucking reality. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I think we went over that before as far as like our brain filling in the blanks, because we have a blind spot on both of our eyes, but you would never really notice unless you do a certain trick in order to see like, oh, that's where my blind spot is, but your brain just fills that little spot in so you don't even notice it. It's a trip, dude.
Dude, yeah, it literally is a trip. Like waking up and walking around is literally a trip. Your brain is hallucinating. It's filling in the blanks.
Yeah.
Like that's nuts.
What an experience we get to have, right?
So the next one, it says increased entropy and complexity. The brain becomes less predictable, more chaotic, and more complex, a state that neuroscientists call high entropy. This matches the subjective experience of wild novelty, infinite possibility, and boundary dissolution. So where we're going, we don't need roads. There's no borders. There's no walls. There is no reality to even box in.
It's chaos, dude.
Yeah, which is why I love chaos magic more than anything, really. But that's another story. It says endogenous DMT pathways are activated. It says there is evidence that DMT is naturally produced in small amounts by the pineal gland. Here we go. By the pineal gland, the lungs, and other tissues in your body.
The lungs. Okay, so that's why breathing practices work, right?
Well,
You're releasing that DMT.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you know what
Nice.
else is really cool too is that so you know how like within Christianity they have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, or the Spirit, right?
Yep.
So literally, spirit, how it was originally written in Aramaic or Greek or however it was originally written, it can be translated two ways. Spirit can. Or the original word for spirit. People just assumed that it was always spirit, right? But actually, what that word also means is your breath.
Right.
So, like, your breath is your spirit. And you think
Right.
about it, your breath is going through your lungs, which secrete
Yep.
DMT.
Yep. And I think there was another word, like where the word ghost comes from, was called gassed, which is also translated to breath.
Wow.
Yeah. We learned that like a long time ago, dude.
Wow. Remember that Pokemon called Ghastly?
Yeah. Right.
So it says, here we go. It says during stress, near death, or dreaming, DMT may naturally spike, suggesting that the DMT state is a built-in aspect of human consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course.
Yep.
Number 7, the sense of time and space collapses. Brain regions that regulate time and perception and spatial awareness become decoupled or overloaded. This may explain why users feel that they travel through tunnels or stargates, enter other dimensions, or live other lifetimes in seconds.
That's the one that terrifies me. Isn't that just the most terrifying thing you can think of? Like, you're living a whole nother life, and then you just wake up and you're like, you're back, but you also have like remorse from that other life you were experiencing. Like, I don't know. That sounds terrifying.
You know what's even more terrifying?
Is
that's what we're probably doing right now.
Oh, fuck, dude. I was feeling okay until right now.
It's not even probable. It's most likely that that's what's happening right now.
Right. Fuck. I kind of hope not, but I also think probably.
Well, I mean, why do you hope not?
I don't know. Like, what if all of a sudden in the middle of this podcast I just wake up and like my life is just so different?
Yeah, but this is not base reality though. Like, it can't be. At
It's
least
just the one I'm most familiar with. All right.
That's the one you're most familiar with in this incarnation, though.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, because, like being on psychedelics, you go to a place that seems unfamiliar, but it is.
Yeah. Yep.
It ain't,
Shit,
you ain't no
dude.
stranger,
God damn it.
God damn it. So the next one, number 8, it gets into the entity encounters. Now, this is all from DMTX. This is information from DMTX.
Right.
Or from the studies, from the intravenous hour-long DMT studies. So, number 8, entity encounters. It says hypersocial brain on steroids. It says some researchers believe the social cognition centers, like the temporoparietal junction and superior temporal sulcus, which are the social cognition centers of your brain, are hyperactivated, giving rise to the perception of intelligent others. These aren't just hallucinations. They're often felt as realer than real because of how vividly the brain constructs them.
So this definitely isn't something it's just there, but your brain is constructing something for you to experience. In this case, as far as the entities are concerned.
Scientifically, that's how you would look at it. Consciously, you probably look at it a little bit different.
Right.
Like, you can break things down. It's like people who try to say, "Oh, well, that's just the sugar pill effect," right? Like, it's not. Like, we don't look at it that way. But but anyway, yeah. So that's what their science is saying about it. So number 9. Breakdown of linear logic. It's the activation of symbolic and intuitive modes. So the left brain, or your analytical brain, quiets down, while the right brain, your holistic and symbolic one, becomes dominant. This shift in perception into a dreamlike or mythic mode, where symbols, archetypes, and direct knowing arise. Yeah. So in essence, your brain on DMT becomes a multi-dimensional receiver-transmitter, breaking normal boundaries and flooding consciousness with data, imagery, and intuition. The self dissolves, reality morphs, and what's left is an experience so vivid and strange that it often feels like visiting another world. That's all.
Don't even trip. Don't even ask questions.
I wanted to get into Rick Strassman, who wrote the book called The Spirit Molecule, or DMT, The Spirit Molecule. Rick Strassman, he's a clinical psychiatrist and professor of psychiatry at the University of New Mexico. In the 1990s, he conducted the first government-approved human studies on psychedelics in over 20 years, since the 60s. His research focused on the effects of pure DMT administered via intravenous injection to nearly 60 volunteers. So then he ended up writing a book. He got dude, I want to read that book. It's a thickum though. It's like 500 something pages. But I would definitely love to get that book. So what is DMT, the Spirit Molecule, about, the book that he wrote? So he published it in 2001. The book is both a scientific report and a philosophical exploration. It covers the biochemistry and psychological effects of DMT. It has firsthand accounts of otherworldly encounters, including contact with deities, visits to alien worlds, experiences of death, rebirth, and cosmic insight, and also speculation on where DMT, quote unquote, takes people and what this might mean about the nature of consciousness and reality. So,
Dude, I wonder though, is that a causation of people already being aware of, let's say, aliens or other planets? Like, if they would have done this, let's say, 1,000 years ago, would the experience be consistent with this? I wonder, like,
well,
why is it that is, if it's not the case, but why is it that that's an aspect of reality, that you get to travel to some alien world, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's a trip to think about.
it's really not that crazy, especially whenever you look into like the Sumerian scrolls and shit like that.
Mhm. Right.
You hear about the Anunnaki, or if you look into the Egyptian stuff with Thoth and all the Egyptian gods and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
It's like they just had their way of explaining it through their lens of what they knew reality was.
Right.
Whenever you're looking at it through a religious lens. So, for example, I would imagine that, a Christian would maybe they'll see Jesus or Mary or somebody like that. You would probably especially if you go into that, like go into it in a ritual like type of mode with the inner guidance that this is what you're going to see, this is what you're going to discover. It'll
Right.
probably be so malleable that it will present you whatever your mind is on.
Right. Well, the thing I was trying to take it to is like back in the day before people even knew there were other planets. You look up, you see the stars, but you don't imagine that there are other planets. Let's just say that's where we are. And then you take DMT and you blast off to another planet. And on this planet, there are aliens that no one ever thought about before. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that would just be a trip if that's how people figured out that there was other shit out there.
It's
You know what I'm saying?
possible. I mean, I don't even know if that's what you would think, that you would be going to another planet. Maybe they just thought that they were just going to another world, like another realm, another reality, like
Right.
you think about the different types of trees of life that they have. So like what is it called? Within Norse mythology, they have Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life, right? Within Kabbalistic, like the Kabbalah, right? You have essentially the tree of life over there as well. And it's the tree of life is always showing essentially like these different dimensions, right? That are stacked on top of each other. And you're usually at the base, you know what I mean? Maybe you're in the middle somewhere, but you're never at the top. And so the top was always referred to as like the heavenly realms or the godly realms, the angelic realm, whatever. And so I think they've always been talking about the same thing just through their own lens. So maybe they weren't always seeing other planets or other worlds or whatever. They just saw them as the realms that they were and didn't really apply a title of this is a land that nobody's ever been. We need to go mine it kind of thing.
Right. I get you.
So there are some key themes to this book, and I really wanted to get into this. There's just a couple of things I wanted to get into as far as this book goes, in case you don't have time to read 500 pages of a book.
Yep.
So about the DMT, the spirit molecule book. So it says, number one is the biological mystery of DMT. It says DMT is naturally produced in the human body. Strassman speculated that it might be secreted by the pineal gland, especially during birth, death, near-death experiences, deep sleep, or mystical states. He often referred to DMT as a spirit molecule because of its potential to bridge biology and spirituality. Number two, so you would have entity contact in alien realms. Many volunteers reported meeting beings from elves to insects, robots, feminine goddesses, and light beings, often described as intelligent, autonomous, and welcoming or terrifying. Nobody wants that part.
Well, praying mantis, dude.
Yeah, they're just performing astral surgery on your ass.
Yeah.
It says these.
I didn't sign up for this, man.
Yeah. I just wanted to go meet my astral wife, and here I am getting probed by Mantis Man over here, dude. So it says these encounters were consistent across different subjects, even among those not expecting spiritual experiences. So that's where it starts to get a little weird, you take an atheist and you combine DMT with that. and then they see some shit. And they're like,
No longer. No longer.
I think there's more. You know? Maybe I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah, there's more than this physical reality, I think.
It says Strassman considered the possibility that DMT allowed access to real external dimensions and that they weren't just hallucinations. He was saying this in the 90s, bro. It wasn't until 2022 that DMTX was created and they're finding all this to be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it lines up with what people are saying now with this DMTX, you know, that it's more real than real, and if you've never experienced it before, it is not a hallucination.
Right. And so this is where it's going to get it pretty cool. It says you would interface with death and the afterlife. So some subjects experience their own death or something like a life review followed by rebirth. What does that sound like?
I don't like it. That's what it sounds like.
It's fucking NDE.
I don't like it.
And speaking of NDEs, it says these experiences were indistinguishable from near-death experiences.
There you go.
It says this led Strassman to hypothesize that DMT may play a role in the transition between life and death.
I think it does. Yeah, dude.
There's no doubt.
Didn't you say it like fires off too when you die? Like, I don't know. I find that so fascinating that is just a part of this reality, though. You know, like we get to experience that. We all will have that experience, no matter what. You know, and it's just built in.
Dude,
just built in.
Like you thought that it was just like work. You know what I mean? Like you thought that it was just like watching TV.
Yeah.
Here's this chemical that literally is residing within your body that is waiting for you to die so that you can like, it's literally a bridge to the other side.
It's waiting for you to die. Oh my God.
So then it gets into the scientific versus mystical interpretations. Strassman, now he's a doctor, right? This isn't just like some scrub, right? Like this guy was as logical and medical as they came. So Strassman wrestled with the limits of science. Was he witnessing biochemical hallucinations or something deeper? He explored the Kabbalah, Buddhism, quantum physics, alien abduction phenomena, and ultimately he left the question open-ended, inviting the reader to decide.
I mean, ultimately, that's what it's going to take, you know?
Yeah, you got to spread yourself thin a little bit if you're really searching for the truth.
Shit.
Then there was an ethical dilemma. It says the depth and strangeness of the experience challenged traditional medical frameworks. Strassman eventually halted his research, concerned that he was opening doors without knowing how to guide people back.
I can see that being a concern, you know? It's so unknown.
Dude, that was a major fear of mine. Whenever I was in the void, I didn't think that I was going to make it back. Like I thought like I really fucked up forever. Like that
you probably felt some sort of responsibility for reconstructing it if you even could.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, trying to hold it together going forward.
Dude, and that was, you know, the blocks spinning and changing places. It's like, fuck, man.
What in a Rubik's Cube, right?
Essentially.
Something like that.
He was scared about not knowing how to bring people back. He emphasized the need for spiritual training and preparation when working with DMT. So, you know, your average Joe or Josephine, you know, if you're just trying to party, don't party on DMT.
Yeah, I would second that, dude. And I haven't even used it. I just feel like that you would definitely want to at least have some wits about you when it comes to your own mind.
Yeah, you're going in there searching for truth. Like that's why you go in there. Like searching for the truth about this reality, searching for the truth about yourself, whatever it is, you're trying to break down what you call reality because you know that there's something more.
And it's probably that scary because it's never going to look like what you imagined. You know?
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's literally like a literal fear of the unknown.
Oh my God.
Like that is the most fearful thing is the unknown.
The unknown, it's a place and you're going.
Yeah.
You know?
Not only
I'll meet you there.
Not only are you going, that's where you came from.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, oh God. So here's a quote from the book. It says, this is from Rick Strassman. He goes, DMT is a powerful tool, an unspeakably potent instrument that can not only teach us about the mind, but about the reality that we inhabit, the nature of life and death, and the dimensions of the spirit.
Shit, dude. That's all.
No big deal.
Okay.
Next thing I want to get into is there's a guy, one of the main administrators, one of the main doctors for DMTX. His name is Dr. Christopher Timmerman. So he leads the DMT studies, and he's focusing on mapping the entities and consciousness structure.
Okay.
So now we're going
Here we
to bring it on down to the DMTX website, which is right down yonder.
Yeah, the whole aspect of mapping it has just it's pretty fascinating, I think. You know, I just need to know exactly what they mean by that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's so much mapping it as if it's like a plot that you can travel along a path.
Right.
That's what I initially thought. But what I'm understanding now is that what they're trying to map is essentially like they're trying to gain a knowing about who these entities are. What is the nature of that reality, which ultimately would kind of be the nature of our reality, you know, whenever the goggles are off.
Yeah.
So that's what I believe the whole idea about mapping the DMT realm. I think we could have been just misconstruing how they meant that.
Verbiage. Okay.
So it says the Extended State DMT program, or DMTX, was initiated in February 2016 by Daniel McQueen, co-founder of Medicinal Mindfulness. DMTX is based on the cutting-edge pharmacokinetic research of Dr. Andrew Gallimore and the revolutionary DMT research of Dr. Rick Strassman. Our DMTX program explores legal psychedelic research and exploration opportunities that are congruent with the needs and interests of the psychedelic community. Potential applications of extended state DMT experiences seem limitless, from therapeutic healing, advanced creative problem solving, consciousness exploration, and explorations in the nature of reality itself. It is because of the importance of this work that all of us at DMTX wish to share what we are learning with the international psychedelic community and to bring our community into the creation and implementation process of this psychedelic-inspired program. All technical logistics associated with the DMTX program have been resolved, and we have completed 26 DMTX expeditions through a series of training retreats for our team and private retreats for our community members. This program is community and member funded with no corporate or profit motive. That's good to know. It says, we have an incredible legal team, experts in psychedelic law. Psychedelic law, who'd have thought that was a thing? And church programs, and our core team members now have certifications as professional psychic chaplains with our allied church, the IDMT project in Brazil. Bro, this is crazy. So they literally created, there's this church in Brazil, and I believe there's one in Colorado, which we may get to that. Yeah, there's one in Colorado also. It is a Christian church that you take DMT every time that you go.
I mean, I can get down with that.
Yeah,
I think
I could too.
Shit.
So, and it's not just the Christian one. I think the one in Colorado, maybe though. I don't know. We're gonna get to that. It says so they have certified professional psychedelic chaplains with their allied church in Brazil. It's called Projecto IDMT. So Projecto IDMT, also known as Igreja do Divino Mestre na Terra in Portuguese, translates to the Church of the Divine Master on Earth, was established in 2016 as a federally recognized Brazilian church. It is important to note that IDMT has the same federal protections and authorizations as the UDV and Santo Daime in Brazil, whatever that is. It says, in 2022, the citizens of Colorado passed a ballot measure called the, oh, damn. I just had like a weird sound shift in my mind. It threw me off there.
Got a download, dude.
That was weird. They had, so yeah, in 2022, the citizens of Colorado, they passed a ballot measure called the Natural Medicine Health Act, or the NMHA, that legalized the regulated access of psilocybin mushrooms and the personal and religious use of psilocybin mushrooms, natural, not synthetic. Also, they were using DMT, non-peyote mescaline. Oh my God, introducing mescaline. That's awesome.
Wow. And
ibogaine. So about a year later, the stars aligned and we conducted our first DMTX training retreat, the first expeditions in the world, in the world outside of the research setting. It is through the legal rights provided by the NMHA that we provide this experience to our members. We're grateful and humbled by the strange and synchronistic events that allowed us to not only support legal DMTX journeys, but to launch the program in our hometown of Boulder, Colorado. We could not have imagined this possibility when we started the project in 2017. So, all right. This is where we get to the research. It says DMT is a powerful psychedelic medicine used throughout history by consciousness explorers. It is found in thousands of plants such as Mimosa hostilis, traditional psychedelic brews like ayahuasca, and occurs naturally in the human lungs and brain. When a small dose is smoked or injected, DMT elicits a quote-unquote more real than real otherworldly experience, leaving the journeyer with a profound sense of awe and wonder. Many people report significant encounters with hyper-realistic entities and beings that seem alive, aware, intelligent, and infinitely complex.
Sounds slightly terrifying.
The experience is so intensely real, in quotes, that many people question their understanding of reality itself. While there are some risks associated with DMT use, in a skillful and intentional setting, it is not only very safe, but can be an extremely healing experience for users. So now that's just DMT. Now we're going to learn.
Physiologically safe, but be careful because, I mean, you might not be able to put those pieces back together.
Yeah, that's up to you. That's up to the
You
individual.
might get them back together, but they're going to be like a little bit wonky. Who knows? Just use caution.
Yeah, it'll shake you. But I like it.
But I like it.
So now we get into the extended state DMT or DMTX. It says the new pharmacokinetic model developed by Dr. Gallimore and Rick Strassman proposes a way that pure DMT experiences can be safely extended and stabilized. While a typical DMT quote-unquote flash, I guess that's what they call it, that's interesting, lasts about 5 to 7 minutes, only providing a glimpse of a vastly complex inner experience. The new method uses advanced medical technology to stabilize DMT levels in the blood so that the DMT peak can be extended safely without overdosing or harming the psychonaut. This is called extended state DMT or DMTX for short. These terms were developed in conversations with Dr. Gallimore about his research so that we could best define the experience. The DMTX extended peak would be 5 times stronger than ayahuasca and can theoretically last many hours. 5 times stronger than ayahuasca.
You're going to heal everybody, not just yourself at that point.
You're healing consciousness, period. It says the acceleration. Oh, God. So the acceleration of the entry, the intensity of the peak, and the duration of the DMT experience can literally be programmed or dialed in, even adjusted during the experience for different therapeutic, advanced problem solving, and consciousness exploration experiences.
See, this is what I want to get into as far as like the problem solving. I want to know what is the best thing they've come out of all of this. Like, what's the best thing that come out of it?
Bro,
like the biggest find.
Like the drip, it's intravenously, it's just like you're getting your blood drawn. They control it so much to where they basically have faders like on a mixing board, right? And they can turn it up, they can turn it down, and if you're experiencing something awesome and you want to stay there, they'll just be like, all right, we found the sweet spot. Maybe you want to experience something like extra out of this world. They're all, let me just level this shit up a little bit.
So you're consciously aware still, like you're able to communicate with other people during this. Because I feel like if you're just tripping too hard, you got to be able to say something, or there has to be some sort of safe word, Like I'm tripping too hard right now.
There's probably something you do with your hands, I would imagine, because you still have use of your hands the whole time. Even though you might forget that you have hands, subconsciously you know that your hands are there. That's how I felt too. Like I could have moved, but it was more of a subconscious knowing that I could have moved and not a consciously. You know what it's kind of weird.
Okay.
It says it says it can be quickly turned off if any safety concerns become apparent. Therefore, it is unlike any psychedelic experience previously possible. It combines an ancient medicine with advanced medical technology to elicit a brand new type of psychedelic expedition. See, now that's awesome. Because if you go into some fucked up nightmare, You can be like fucking pineapple, and say your word or whatever, right?
Right.
And they're
right.
like, all right, say less, I got you. And then you're out.
Oh,
you're done.
shit. And of course, they've got your vitals and everything else. They're watching your blood pressure, I'm sure,
Oh, yeah.
in this type of setting.
Yeah, for sure. So it says the plan is that over the past decade, we've explored a dozen ways to implement the DMTX program, from FDA-approved clinical research settings to private retreats in Costa Rica, Jamaica, and Brazil. Though through this exploration, we finally landed on the best path, working under the NMHA religious use protections in Colorado and becoming a church partner of the IDMT Church in Brazil. It is with these intentions that we now provide this service to our members as part of a personal/religious spiritual study and practice. See, you can get away with just about anything you call yourself a religion. And from what I hear,
it's a smart move,
Dude, it's actually not that hard to create your own religion.
Yeah, I heard you talking about this at one point.
Yeah, it's like a paper. That's basically it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a different story whenever you're talking about becoming recognized as one, but legally you can be a religion.
Right.
So, it says to fully comply with the NMHA, the Medicinal Mindfulness Foundation, a religious nonprofit incorporated in Colorado, organizes private retreats for our members. We have established our own church, the interdimensional. that would have been funny if they would have called it that. The International DMT Church, to provide further legal protections under the United States Religious Freedom Restoration Act, the same law allowing the Santo Daime and UDV ayahuasca churches from Brazil to practice in the United States. It is important to note that the IDMT church in Brazil has the same legal protection. Okay, I don't care about that. So, all right, so their long-term goals. Wow, all right. It says, our intention is to develop new psychedelic-assisted clinical therapies, develop advanced creative problem-solving protocols, explore consciousness and the psyche to try to define, in quotes, realness of the experience, and to potentially develop a medical device called the Matrix Machine.
Oh, that's a great name.
A term invented by Dr. Gallimore that can be used safely and effectively to administer DMTX experiences by a trained DMTX technician. A Matrix Machine. That is the best name I've ever heard.
I agree. Holy shit.
It says images of machines that project explorers into different realities are embedded into our pop culture or our popular sci-fi culture, movies like Total Recall, Contact, The Matrix, Inception, and in the writings of authors like Philip K. Dick. It turns out these machines might be less science fiction than we thought. Psychedelic use has a solid history of supporting innovative discovery, like the iPhone and DNA. Psychedelic use found DNA. Wow. And it says, and in this day and age, we need to consider all available options for transforming the climate crisis, among other serious concerns. As cool as alternate reality exploration is, and as important as clinical healing modalities are, the primary focus of our work will be to develop advanced problem-solving protocols that can be applied to technology development that can help heal our planet. We intend to share what we learn as we go. All right. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they've come up with some. I'm sure that there's been some shit that they've gotten out of this by now. They've been doing it since 2016, was it?
Well, the idea started in 2016. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for DMTX. I'm sure we can, you can always go farther with that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But now I want to get back to some more of these testimonies.
All right.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm excited. I
All
love
right.
this shit.
Yeah, dude, I love it. So this is actually the guy that Danny Goler said that my story remind him of this guy's story as far as going into the void and destroying all of reality.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is that story, but this is definitely that guy. Remember that dude with the dreads, and he has a pretty cool look. But let's see what he has to say.
They got kicked out, trying to get back, and they cannot. They can smoke as much DMT as they want, and they cannot get back in. Almost like some kind of receptor that is open to, access that space is not shut. The door is shut, and no matter how many times you hit that cartridge, you cannot get back in. Before you got kicked out, what did you do? What happened? And so for the story why I got kicked out, I popped into a space where there was an entity. I don't have many interactions with entities. I have a different cerebral experience when I'm in there. I popped into a space where there was an entity. And this entity was startled by me popping into its space.
Sorry to interrupt. What did it look like?
It was a tall creature, looked like had some kind of rope. I was in a white space and this thing got annoyed with me to the point like, boom, I was out. The experience stopped completely. The vision stops. I was out.
Dude, got kicked out of the DMT realm.
Oh, and that's the guy that you said Danny Goler interviewed. Have you listened to that interview?
Yeah, actually. So
Him
it
and
was
Danny Goler?
Well, it was him, Danny Goler, and Dan Go, or who is it? Not Dan Go, but Danny Jones. They were both on the Danny Jones podcast, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So I listened to one where it was just Danny Goler and that dude right there. And dude, that episode was, I mean, it was just too far advanced even for me, but it's like they go deep, dude.
Dude, it's
like super deep.
It's intense, the level of shit that Danny Goler goes into.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
dude,
it's
that
like
guy, he's brilliant.
It's beyond my level of even trying to configure and understand.
I just appreciate that there's someone like him that's doing what he's doing.
Yeah, dude. So this one says, I believe this is, let's see.
I held it in both times until there was no more smoke, and when I exhaled, the second time everything started to go through that familiar but foreign change. So everything starts to look and feel more and more foreign until I am suddenly no longer a body, and my consciousness is fully there. I was greeted by the exact being I had been thinking about. To me, it does not seem like the typical entity that I read about in other people's trip reports, but more like a sentient mass of constantly changing three-dimensional objects. As I excitedly tried to remember and ask the questions I had, I wasn't presented with answers as much as just a feeling to look closer, so I tried really hard to observe and remember the details of what I was looking at. Focusing closer on what I was looking at, I was immediately struck with just how complex this thing really was. From a distance, it appeared to be almost shaped like a wave. Even now picturing it and writing this is so hard because I can only remember as much as my limited brain can comprehend. I've tried to describe what I was looking at. It seems like I can fully remember it, but the memory has to have been modified to fit my perception, since truly describing what I saw or even perceiving it from my current viewpoint would be like a brick trying to describe how to build itself into a wall. From here, any point I looked I could see entire universes being born and destroyed in each point I focused my attention, instead of mere 3D objects. Some of these universes were very simple, some just as complex as ours, some beyond my imagination. I could see that this was truly everything, and that the entire universe that humans know is just a single thought in a sea of infinite thoughts, seemingly created and destroyed in an instant just for fun. I felt so overwhelmed, but equally thankful for this blessed knowledge. I felt like I now knew everything. I was so overwhelmed and it was so much to take in, and the road figure seemed like it was highly amused because I had asked for this. Don't know exactly how long I stayed in this place. It felt so amazing yet so far beyond my little existence.
Dude, like...
That's great.
He was like, it's basically like a brick trying to teach itself how to build itself into a wall.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is like not in the sense of waking up from a dream and not fully remembering the dream. This visual was just so immersive and complex that it's just impossible to describe.
Yes, dude. Danny Jones tried DMT. I want to hear this one.
My third hit, I was starting to like feel a little wobbly, and then I did a fourth hit, and I was like, I felt like the rocket lifting off, right? And then the fifth hit, I was like almost gone, and then by the time I inhaled that fifth hit, I just like right out of my body, just shot right out of the top of my body, and I was gone. I was just catapulted through another universe filled with light cluster, like different color lights and spectrums and patterns. And the few times I did open my eyes, though, it was almost unbearable. I was almost scared. Like when I opened my eyes and I saw the U like bursting with light, and then I saw like the peripheral like lights coming in. The TV, I couldn't even see the TV because it was just light, like and the overwhelming sound, that kind of like drone, the weird sort of like droning, buzzing sound. Yeah,
that's always there. It's weird. Terrence used to say that he thinks that's the sound that carries you in. That it coats everything in the right frequency so you can go there. It's almost like it vibrates your body in the right frequency so you can in fact experience it. So if we're a level of frequencies, right?
Yeah.
And then you can perceive things on different frequencies, it's almost like it brings you to the right frequency to see that.
Dude, I'm so
That's
happy we
crazy.
had that guy on our show.
It doesn't even make sense, you know?
It really doesn't. Yeah, it's crazy. And everybody kind of experiences something different, but ultimately, like at the core, the same thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Here's another one. This one's awesome.
Inhale. Exhale. Break through. Everything starts to whirl like a Fibonacci sequence of. The I amness is all I've ever been, and I had a clear feeling of that. Of course I'm an I am. Of course I can't be anything than an I am. I amness is I am. If that makes any sense. I could see more my past lives, my future lives, basically every combination of everything that could ever be was accessible in that database, in the larger consciousness system that I was seeing behind the veil of. And there were some entities, they were more chameleon-like than anything, kind of walking around like. One of them noticed me, and in a playful way just kind of extended its tongue and licked my eyeball, and didn't hurt at all or anything, but was kind of show like, yeah, see, I can mess with you, but nothing will hurt you at the deepest level. As I climbed up, for lack of a better word, film strip of every possible multiverse timeline available, and as I'm looking at all of it, it hits me, I don't know which one I came from. And right then, I hear this voice from nowhere in particular go, "Stop the presses!" All the flowingness of everything just came to a halt. So the ominous voice was kind of like, yeah, we can send you back whenever you want. All of this will still always be here. Just tell us where you want to get sent back to, and we'll send you back. Inhale.
Dude.
What a trip, dude.
So
in
wild.
that experience, like when you're experiencing that, it's not so much just a visual thing. Because he describes like actually climbing up something. Like, is it interactive in that way, or is that just kind of how he perceives it?
It's different for everybody, dude. You know, and that's like, it's so hard to describe. Is it something that you're creating? Is it part of your reality, or is it something that is almost separate from you, that's presenting itself to you in some kind of way? You know, and I think that, you know, whatever possibly your preconceived notion going in is probably going to, like, that's how it's going to represent itself almost.
Right.
Right.
Because
But
in your experience, you said that you reached out and you tried to hold on to that golden ball, you
Yeah.
know, and so it felt like dreamlike, like you were actually doing that. Or
no, it didn't feel,
Listen-
that's the thing. It didn't feel dreamlike. Like it felt real.
right. And so you reaching out and grabbing that golden ball, it felt like you were actually doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like
That's
I was, like, it wasn't like I was thinking about doing it or thinking, you
or
know,
just seeing yourself doing it.
no. Like I was there. I was the one that extended my hand. My hand was the one that held the ball. Like not like the fractal of my mind of whatever I perceive my hand as. Like it was like
Right.
my fucking hand was holding that ball.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're gonna listen to maybe two more of these.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the more popular ones. This one says it's Kenny DeForest DMT journey. So let's check this one out.
All right.
The time I smoked DMT and partied at a disco in the sky with Questlove. So we got the DMT, there was 5 of us, and what we decided to do was smoke it one at a time in my buddy's bedroom. The first time I went, I hit the DMT one time, I held it in, and I immediately heard the DMT sound. It's like a train is coming to mow you over, but it never quite comes. Hit it again. Now it's louder. The world's starting to break apart. Everything's waving. And as I'm completely losing control, one more hit, drop the pipe. When you go to a store and you're just running in real quick, so you just leave the car running with the keys in it, that was my body. And I was like, I'll be right back, body. I'm gonna run in here. and just see what's popping off in this pharmacy up here. And all of a sudden I arrived in, I guess what you could only describe as a cosmic disco. And the vibe was very much like,
What's up, Kenny? Welcome, man. We've been waiting for you.
there was 3 entities there, right? To the right, there was a figure I would describe female energy over here. She had long braids hanging out the back, and she was kind of dancing like this. Almost looked like a quarterback pump faking, just over and over again. And then next to her, he kind of looked like a cartoon version of Questlove from The Roots, and just kind of looking at me like, it's about to get crazy up here. And I was like, I think you might be right. And then the entity directly in front of me was a lot more mysterious, very still. There was no face. And I had this sense of like, are you ready? And I was like, oh, I think so. And the light from his robe began to shoot out in a beam, and it came right towards me. And as soon as it hit my body, this really loud buzzing started. And I could hear it and I could feel it. It was making my teeth chatter. And so then the light starts to move around my body as the buzzing follows it. Zzz, and it just felt like everywhere it touched, I was healing, right? And it like paused on my liver kind of for a long time. And I was like, okay, I get it. I drink too much. All right, I'll do something. I understand, okay? You can leave the liver alone now. And then zzz, I was like, I get it. And he grabbed my hand and we started to fly. And as we're flying, I started to realize that we were kind of taking a tour of Earth, but it was in the future, and the Earth was completely at peace. And we're going through every continent, every country, and everyone's just dancing and kind of looking out to the orb like, yeah, we did it. And all of a sudden, I felt my mouth get wedged open. And then when that happened, a tube extended from the orb down to my mouth, and then the bright light from everything inside the orb slowly came down through the tube into my mouth. And I was like, this is a lot for a Tuesday for sure. And I was suddenly just back. I don't know. I think if I could give you any takeaway, it would be, they say dance like no one's watching, and I guess that's cool. But what would be even better is to dance like 3 benevolent, loving aliens are watching.
What an experience, dude.
I know, dude. And that's what's so fascinating about it, is that it's so, like, anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, like that is, oh God, I just love it.
I think I might be getting closer to trying it. You're convincing me, dude.
I'm trying. It's not all nightmares and,
right,
shitty places. But yeah, all right. So this one, it says a blind man tries DMT. This is gonna be fun.
Oh, okay.
I got someone who was blind from birth to smoke DMT. A post by that one guy 1001 on the Shroomery forums 8 years and 5 months ago. I had what is probably the greatest experience I've ever had today, and it wasn't even my own. I had a couple points of bundleweed DMT saved in the fridge for a while for this very day, not knowing when it may happen. My buddy Cody was driven up here for Christmas by his brother yesterday. He is congenitally blind from birth. He was born with a type of disease that I cannot pronounce or spell, and he is a frequent cannabis smoker. When I got up this morning, he had a small breakfast of fruit, and then I removed the DMT from the fridge and explained to him what it was, as well as the process, and I had a theory. His visual cortex is completely intact. It's just that he doesn't actually have eyes that work. So, in theory, he should be able to have a DMT experience with his own mind. He has never had any true psychedelics before today, as the duration of the experiences puts him off from it. My theory was that, never having had the experience of vision, he would not be able to describe what it was that happened, but I would be able to tell if it did based on his reaction. So, I convinced him it was worth the 10 minutes it takes, and convinced him he would benefit from the experience. And if not, well, hell, it's only 10 minutes. I helped guide him down to my pond. I set up some lawn chairs, as it was in the upper 50s today and sunny. Felt really nice. I loaded the bowl, gave it to him, and helped him light it. He took 3 huge rips, holding each in probably 20-second bursts. Now, Cody usually holds his eyes closed. The only time I've ever seen his eyes was when I first met him. He has to actively try to open them, because it's a movement he almost never does. He does not have the muscle memory for it, so it takes effort for him. As soon as he let out the last hit, his eyes opened. Not just open, they shot wide open. He leaned onto his knees out of the chair. How he could even move, I'm not even sure. But he started sobbing, and he cried for about 10 minutes. As suspected, he cannot say anything but one word about the experience. All he can say with sobbing tears is, so beautiful. So beautiful. I can't. I don't. It's just so beautiful. This was about 10 hours ago. He's still asking me if that is what seeing actually is. How do I even respond to that? He cannot describe what it is he saw, but he did see something, and he's been blind from birth. I don't know where I go from here, but we both feel as if we have uncovered something more profound than the experience itself. I just thought I would leave this here, as I have no idea the implications of this, and I have no hope of ever getting an explanation from him of exactly what he experienced.
Dude, that gave me chills.
Yeah, same.
Big time chills, dude. He made a blind person see something beautiful. You know? Like,
wow.
What's even the context for the word beautiful when you can't see? But he knew that that's what it was. You know? Like,
it's unmistakable.
Fuck, that was awesome. Chills, dude.
Dude, you know what I'm saying?
That was the best one. You saved the best for last, man.
I had to. Yeah. I saw that one had the most views, and I was like, all right, let me save this bad boy.
That's so fascinating. Because you know he saw something. Because all of that stuff that you would see within a trip happens in the part of the mind that is still intact for that guy. You know? So he had just as much of a DMT trip as anybody else would.
Bro,
you know?
He smoked it, and his eyes blasted wide open.
Holy shit, dude.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. That's incredible, dude.
Oh, I love this.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
This inspired me to possibly partake this weekend.
This weekend,
Just get weird, dude. So
hey, I got a tarot card if you want that.
Yeah, let's I want to read some of the messages here. Sorry everybody, we've kind of been, just getting into the information, but I don't want to, not include y'all. But Nora said, "Hey everybody, Nora here. How are y'all doing?" White Boy Wizard said, "Fucking great. Just installed a fart fan in my old house. Last one wasn't vented. The venter, like the little fan that you put on in the bathroom." He
that's
said,
a good one.
Yeah. And then he said, "I busted out my Sacred Path cards. Brandon popped out to say hi. R.I.P. to my best friend. Forgot I put him in there." Sacred Path cards. How about that? Oh, it was like the little memorial thing. Okay, I see.
All right.
Yeah, White Boy Wizard said IV blasting DMT. Yeah. He said, "I want to do ayahuasca and ibogaine so badly." I don't know about ibogaine. I've never been addicted to anything. So, oh, here he is. Here comes the White Boy Wizard back. Yeah, I don't know about that. White Boy Wizard.
I don't even know what it is.
White Boy fucking Wizard. What it do, homie?
Just kidding, I'm back. I went to go see if Jacob was doing his thing, but it's either over or the link is busted, so I'm sure it's over.
Oh,
You tricked us, man. I thought you were gone.
I was for a minute.
I'm glad you're back, though.
So you said you want to do ayahuasca and ibogaine.
I mean, yeah, not at the same time.
No, yeah, of course not. Imagine that.
So yeah, I'll just give you a real quick story of what I know. So I mean, I started researching ibogaine back in 2011 or 12. I was reading a bunch of Daniel Pinchbeck books, and he talks about ayahuasca and ibogaine and the mind 2012 and all crazy shit. But anyways, my cousin died a few years ago, and her first husband had to do a couple tours of Iraqi freedom, and literally one of his whole groups all got wiped out or something, except for him, or no, a bunch of them got wiped out, and everybody else got critically injured. He was the only one that didn't get hurt. And so anyways, she's been through lots of shit and always had super bad PTSD and alcoholism and whatever. He went down and did ibogaine and told me that when he was sitting there cross-legged on the floor, that another version of himself came up through the floor, sitting cross-legged, looking right back at himself. And he's like, I had to sit there and hash out every fucking feeling that I've never wanted to feel in my entire life, and had to go through all of them from A to Z and process it all with myself. The story was fucking crazy. But yeah, he told me that, after he got out, that it's the same, like, it's just what you were saying, Jonathan, the opiate addicts and whatever, they get out and they don't ever touch anything ever again. Like, I want to do that shit so bad, bro. I've struggled with addiction. Like, I used to be a straight edge kid, didn't ever try anything up until senior year. And then I dove headfirst into everything. And within 6 months, I was, doing way more of everything all the time than everybody else. I'm just fucking sick of having that attached to me. I want that ibogaine cleanse, the purge. I want it.
Dude, if you ever do get the opportunity to try ibogaine, bro, I want to be there. I want to see it. I would love that. Sean, you're muted.
Sorry.
Rookie.
I'm back.
But yeah, I would love to be able to see something like that. I would just love to be a part of an ayahuasca ceremony, an ibogaine. I imagine it's probably ceremonial.
I would imagine.
And yeah, because I mean, just imagine like just being a fly on the wall and seeing the revelations of the people that are going through the process and then like come out of it and tell the story like in real time. You're the first one to hear the story. Like, my God, that has got to be some of the most powerful shit. And yeah, man, I wish that I could see something like that. But yeah, it definitely, and that's what I hear about ibogaine is that it really forces you to look at the things that you don't want to look at. And so that's what makes it so difficult. But also that's what makes it so healing, because you think about, the things that you need to heal from are ultimately the things that you don't want to deal with. Yep. Right. And, Dolores Cannon used to always talk about stuff like this, that she would say, your pent up anger or your aggression or your sorrow or your guilt or anything, like all these things, all these feelings, all these memories, they manifest in the body. And certain people have certain ways about drowning them out, whether it be through alcohol or drugs, or maybe it's just depression. That is your only way to be able to deal with whatever you got going on internally, that you just put yourself into a depressed state as if you're in constant judgment of yourself. Now imagine there's a drug out there, and yeah, it's going to suck, and you're going to have to confront the shittiness of all the negative, terrible things that you've ever said or done or anything like that. You're going to have to confront it. But dude, you come out on the other side and you are literally cleansed. Like I've heard so many different ibogaine testimonies. And obviously like DMT testimonies and ayahuasca, all of them really, like everybody has their own thing. But yeah, that ibogaine is like aggressive at like forcing you to face it. So
is that like something you can go and do? Like there's established places you can go to do something like that, or?
Ibogaine, you still, as far as I know, you still have to go across the border down into Mexico, so you can like, because it's not even like so much, I would say, ceremonial, dude. It's like they got it set up to where they keep you high for 3 days and you're monitored and hooked up to machines and all this stuff to make sure that nothing goes, skiddly-womped.
Right.
But yeah, you don't even have to have like a passport, bro. You can fly down there and they'll pick you up in San Diego, and then because they're an established hospital and like real fucking doctors, they can sign a waiver for you that just says like, hey, he's not going anywhere in the country. We got him. We're taking him here, and then we're bringing him right back. So yeah, that's, as far as I know, it's still Mexico. The last governor of Texas, not Abbott, but the dude I think before him, or maybe two before him, I can't remember his name, but the previous governor is pushing hard to try and get ibogaine studies and whatever, just trying to get it started somewhere in America. He used to be super anti freaking marijuana and all that shit, and then all of his buddies and family all told him like, hey, this shit actually cures PTSD and alcoholism and addiction, and now he's going hardcore trying. So I hope it won't be too long.
Yeah, dude. And that's the thing that puzzles me the most, dude. Is the things that seem to really work are usually the things that are the most misunderstood and not looked into or investigated enough to just make it a thing. Like if people are coming out of this healed and, no longer addicted to certain substances. It's like, why not,
Well, and dude, that's the crazy thing is that alcohol is legal. There is no benefit.
Right.
Literally, there is zero benefit to alcohol. I mean, you can make an argument for, red wine and shit like that for your heart or whatever. But I'm talking about like Jose Cuervo. Sorry. You're not getting too much like positive from that other than, a spicy night and a headache in the morning.
Yep.
And
well, a lot of money has a play in that,
Oh, yeah. And just the mere fact that, marijuana, I mean, fortunately, marijuana is coming around to where it's going to be legal everywhere, I imagine, within the next few years, personally. I mean, just in Arizona, Sean, you got fucking dispensaries out there. I'm jealous.
I know. It's like going to Circle K or something. It's just they're everywhere now, man.
Yeah, yeah. And so but the other ones, the psychedelics, whether it be mushrooms, DMT, ayahuasca, whatever it is, right? Like, they're all like the worst of the schedule. I think it's schedule 3. It's literally like equal to heroin, bro. It's equal to like coke. And like, I'm just like, we're talking about totally different animals.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even the same at all. And yeah, you do have a psychedelic trip. But here's the thing, bro. You gonna fucking smoke some DMT and get behind the wheel of a car? Hell no. You gonna smoke some DMT and beat your wife? Hell no, that's not gonna happen, dude. I mean, unless she just like morphs into a reptilian, then maybe. But
it's just like an instinct, you just throw a jab or two,
yeah, maybe, I don't know. But most of the time, and that's what I think that, it's good that, the way that they're trying to incorporate it is through clinical and ceremonial type of services. Like, I don't think that it should be stoled at like a liquor store. Like, you can't just walk into a liquor. You shouldn't be able to just walk into a store and get ayahuasca. I think that, you got to have like shamanic traditions and administered correctly and stuff like that. I have no problem with that. Like, especially somebody who's going
just
to
make it available to someone that really could benefit from it.
Have it be a prescription. I don't even care.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you have to go to therapy and have a clinician, prescribe it to you or something like that. That's fine.
Well, and that's another thing too that keeps it from being legalized probably is that there isn't a whole lot of money to be made off of that. Especially if you only really got to do it once. Well, it's like,
yeah, I mean, you're not going to get big pharma behind it.
No.
Nope. I mean, just look at, I'm not going to go there, but all the COVID shit, that was just ridiculous. So Nick said, gave my buddy his first mushroom trip today. He has tried chocolates before, but not actual mushrooms. He saw the world on a new way today. Pretty cool. Hell yeah, dude. That's legit. It's been a while since I've done mushrooms.
Pretty interesting.
Oh, dude. Especially if you take like a good dosage. Like, I don't even want to say your first time trying mushrooms. Like, your first time trying mushrooms, if you only take like a gram or something like that, it's like, oh, pretty colors and I feel, cool or whatever. But your first like real journey, that's like reality shifting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Especially if you get Elohim chanting. That's a whole. All right. Well, yeah. I guess we're pretty much caught up on everybody. Thank you so much for everybody for hanging out with us. We got a tarot reading we're gonna get to, and then a meditation and stuff. But Sean, what is that card, sir?
We got the Ace of Cups, man.
No way.
Yeah,
I feel like
that was kind of interesting as you were talking about the chalice with the Ergot, that they found and everything else.
The Ace of Cups. All right, let's pull it up here.
It's a cup being held by a hand seeming to come out of the clouds. Yeah.
That is correct. The Ace of Cups, it says, the gift of new love is presented. Be open to receiving this gift from the divine. The Ace of Cups signals the gift of a new beginning rooted in love and emotional experience. The hand of the divine emerges from a cloud offering a golden chalice. Interesting. The cup of love, from which 5 streams of water flow into a blooming lily pond. The streams of water tell us that the cup's influence can manifest in many different ways in our lives. A white dove symbolizes peace, and the wafer in its mouth represents a gift of connection to the divine. Bro, The bird has a wafer in its mouth.
Yeah.
Sounds like sacrament, right? We were just talking about that.
Yeah, man.
Talking about sacrament, talking about like the chalice. Wow, that is crazy.
Yep.
So it says the upright meanings or the upright key meanings are new love and relationships. Right. So let's look into, damn, this one's kind of hitting me. So the spiritual one, it says focus on self-love and taking time for yourself. New opportunities and inspiration for personal development will appear for you soon. You will soon feel increased enthusiasm for your spiritual practice.
Love it.
Let's go, dude.
I love it. Speaking to me as well, dude.
I love that card, dude. That's a solid card, especially for this episode.
Yeah. And I don't think we get it very often either. So when I pulled it, I was like, oh, I just knew, man, it was going to resonate.
You know what, though? That was the perfect card for this reading.
It was.
Dude, you got the chalice, you got the holy sacrament, and
The divine.
The divine, yeah, dude, yeah, and you know, pure enthusiasm coming from it too. So that's a good card, dude. I enjoy that one. Sean, do you have any parting words? What did you think about this whole this DMT experience, sir?
I thought it was pretty cool, dude. And I understand now, well, at least with the whole DMTX, you know, as far as what that really entails. And because I always thought they were like trying to figure out like real physical space within this, you know, within the DMT realm. And so, yeah, dude, I fully understand the benefits of DMT. And, you know, before we started this episode, I was pretty much against even trying it, you know, but I think it's going to happen eventually. I just don't know when, you know. I'm just a little bit nervous about it.
That's the spirit molecule.
Yeah. So I'll make Byron proud, you know.
Yeah,
so.
Don't be a bitch.
He's like, all right, now 39 more times. God damn it, Byron.
Oh, Byron. Yeah, dude, this was awesome. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up right here. We're going to get into the meditation. For those of you who are joining us here on Patreon, if you want to join us for the meditation, you're more than welcome to come meditate with us, and then we'll reconvene at the end of it. For people who are just listening to this the next day or the day after or whenever, if you want to be a part of these live shows, you just come check out patreon.com/metamysteries. That link is down in the show notes below. It's the best way to be able to support us. Over there, Sean actually reads all the messages and all the comments and everything. So if you have a message, maybe for Sean, maybe it's for me, maybe it's just for Meta Mysteries in general, that would be the best way to be able to reach out to us. What's good about over there is that you do get the shows a couple of days in advance, and it is also completely commercial free. So I just want to let everybody know, if you're tired of those damn commercials, or if you just want to be able to join us, we have several different tiers, but join the Wonder Wisday tier or higher, and you'll be able to join us for the live shows. And also, if you would, it really helps us out. I know that we are, we're on the Cult of Conspiracy podcast right now. If you're listening to Meta Mysteries on the Cult of Conspiracy podcast, it would help out us a lot if you would leave a review, specifically kind of directing some of the love towards Meta Mysteries, maybe a specific Meta Mysteries episode, whatever. We are obviously on the Cult of Conspiracy podcast. It's more of a, you know, kind of, and you know what? This is something that Cassandra had said. And she thought that there was going to be some kind of union somehow. I can't remember the exact word that she said.
Yeah.
But syndication. Yeah.
Yeah.
She said that there was going to be some kind of syndication, and I kept on trying to figure out what that was. And then we finally figured it out. It was just joining forces and bringing the show over to the Cult of Conspiracy. And I got to say, that's probably the best thing that we've ever done. At first I was kind of hesitant, you know, you kind of just want to do your own thing and be your own channel and stuff like that. But I got to say, we went from, I'm not going to say exactly how many listeners, but let's just say we quadrupled our amount of listeners just by transferring the show over to the Cult of Conspiracy.
Wow.
So there's a lot more ears on this show. And so anybody that is listening to Meta Mysteries, maybe you're new to Meta Mysteries, welcome. And thank you for joining in with us. We get weird over here. We dive into
what an episode
everything.
to join. you know?
Oh, dude, this would be the episode for sure. I don't know if there's an episode that is like the perfect way to join, but this would be a good initiation for sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we appreciate all of the one out there. We love you very much, and we'll see you next time if you don't want to join us for the meditation. But if you're not going to be joining us for the meditation, then this is where we leave you. And what we like to say is that if DMT came here and it taught you anything, it's that you don't know what you don't know. So don't just get weird.
Stay weird.
Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.
Dude, that was great. I love that one.
I feel super mellowed out, dude. Like to the
Instantly.
max.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. Yeah, that was something.
I guess I wore the right shirt today with the heavily meditated.
Yeah, you are now.
Yeah, that was really
great,
good, dude.
You experience anything interesting or just kind of chilled there for a bit?
Yeah, I kind of went in with some intention. Like I was really hoping that not that I'm like heavily lacking in the confidence department, but you know, you can always be more, you know.
Yep.
And so I was just like, all right, I am confidence. I just kept on repeating that in my mind, like I am
Little
confidence.
mantra.
Yeah, and dude, with the beats and the drums and the hums, I'm like,
Adds
dude,
to it,
I feel like what they were doing was like, sorry,
Pumping
my
you up.
dogs. Yeah, it really felt like I was getting like super, like they were doing it for me in my own mind, you know?
Yeah, that's what I love about those. It's so ceremonial. You know, it feels like you are the subject, you know, and whoever's making that music, maybe there's 10 people or 20 people and they're all just there doing that for you.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the kind of thing you can do in these meditations, you know, is you can really tailor it to you, you know, because why wouldn't you? And yeah, man, that was great, man. That was great. I just feel really, really relaxed, and I just started thinking how amazing it is that, you know, wherever we all came from, however it started, whether it was some sort of explosion of the divine or a big bang or whatever it is. Yeah, I just find it amazing that here we are now listening to consciousness itself creating that meditation for us.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just stuff like that. I feel like that's the biggest question, you know, why are we here? How did we get here? You know, everything else is just extra, I think. But yeah, dude,
and this is
pretty
something
amazing.
that like, you know, I kind of had a talk about this last night, as a matter of fact, on the Cult Live. And,
right.
you know, people were like, well, you know, do you believe that God created us, or do you believe in the Big Bang Theory? I'm just like, see, where you guys might be getting stuck at is that you assume that there was a beginning. You know, like I feel
I was
like
going to ask you about that.
I feel like there never was a beginning.
You think so?
I mean, just put it into this realm. Like, when did the DMT realm begin? When did the dream realm get created? You know, like, when did the meditational space, like, when was that created? It wasn't. You know, it's like something that's, and that's the thing whenever, and that's the thing whenever you go into these, you know, kind of trance-like states, you know that it's something that can't not be.
Right.
So therefore, it was not something that was technically created. Maybe it was. I mean, but honestly, what's the point of even thinking about how it was all created at that point? I mean, if there is an actual creator, I think that we're part of it.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think that's even a question. If there is a creator, of course we are. But I think that would be my intention as far as going into a DMT trip. I feel like, let me think of, was there a beginning or was there not, you know? Or has it just always been? I think that would be a cool thing to know, I think, you know?
Yeah, that
or
would
at least
be,
understand a little better.
It would be interesting to try and find out, but I'm almost pretty fucking sure
that it's always been.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I say that, though, is because, all right, let's just try. And you know, actually, a lot of religions will agree to an extent with what I'm about to say.
Okay.
because some people will say, well, you know, God created heavens and the earth and the stars and all that other stuff, right? But they say that he's always existed.
Right.
There's never
Right.
been a time where God didn't exist.
Of course.
And if everything around us, like pantheism, right? If every single thing around us is just an emanation of God, then that means that everybody that is within the light of that emanation that is coming from God, to get a little Neoplatonic here, has never not been.
Right.
Like, it just makes the most amount of sense. You know, it actually, like, you almost got to do mental gymnastics to try and figure out the creation.
Yeah, I mean, because even in the Big Bang Theory, you know, because I mean, I feel like that's what I always just understood. You know, of course, that's what we're taught. That's the best answer or theory that science has at the moment. You know, that everything is expanding, and so if you rewind the clock, everything comes back to one singular point, and so it must have exploded in some form or fashion, and it's still expanding. You know, that's just kind of what made sense. And of course, I think they have math and all these observations that would kind of prove that, but who's to say, dude? I think it's just too big to even try to understand that.
But,
You know?
but you know, as well as a lot of other people that are listening, that the physical realm isn't all that is God. It isn't all that is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, of
and
course,
also,
of course.
not only just the physical realm, humans, like we identify as humans. That's
Right.
what we are. Like we existed before this physical carnation, for sure.
Right.
Like, why is it that, you know, people think that it's more real than real on the other side? It feels so
that
real.
gets me. That gets me.
You know, and
I love that notion, you know, and I want to one day understand what that really means, you know, because in a dream, you know, you're dreaming. I mean, for the most part, you wake up, you realize, oh, that was dreamlike, you know, and it's like as if it's its own thing. But people describe this DMT realm, or let's say NDE, as being more real than real. That I want to know what that is like.
well, and that's what a
to
lot
be
of people
honest.
say from that experience NDEs. You know, they go into a place that is more real than real.
Yeah.
And then whenever they come back, it's like they just woke up or they just fell asleep. You know,
Right.
this is the reality that is the dream. Like if there ever was a dream reality, it is our perspective of this reality.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, I understand. It's a very big question. It's a very,
Oh,
but
not-
to me, it's just my curiosity. I want to know. Sure, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, but let's not forget to also have the human experience. You know, within the human experience, there are physical properties that we somewhat understand. You know, we're trying to understand more and more, but you know, I don't know. I just like to understand all of it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
no,
the spiritual, the physical.
Yeah, I'm not.
all of
I'm by no means am I trying to come across as like a know-it-all for sure. It's just
Of
like
course not.
this is what I say is conversations that I'm having in my mind that I'm almost
know.
like, yeah, for
I
sure,
just-
that's how it is. You know what I mean?
I just love that we got this conversation out of a drum ceremony meditation. You know, like that's the kind of shit that I love about this.
Dude, oh, I just realized another thing that I experienced. So, so it got me thinking, that whole DMT thing, and about how it basically turns your brain into like its full potential, essentially. You know, you're able to see and sense and all, you know, experience
Everything's
like,
heightened.
like the real reality. Dude, like I was just thinking, you know, you don't have to be in a trance or, you know, psychedelics or anything like that in order to just understand that this is all we can physically see.
Right.
But that there is always a whole other reality that is literally right here. So legit, like, you know, whenever people see, you know, the mantis beings or the grays or whatever you see, the machine elves, whatever, or maybe it's just the fractals or maybe the sacred geometry, whatever, right? Like the truth that lies within you, in a sense. You know, all the things that you hate about yourself, all the things you hate about the world, all the things you love about the world, all the things you love about yourself, like all of that. Not only does it exist, but it literally exists in this room. Like, and that's the wild thing. You know, whenever you go into a like a psychedelic trip or something like that, you're not physically going anywhere. You're sitting your ass on the couch, you know.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
But all of that is all around you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that world is right here.
Mm-hmm.
Not figuratively, not philosophically, like literally right here, right fucking now.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I was in that trip, I kind of had that like realization, you know, that that like, you know, how we experience reality is the trip. It is the lesser than the whole of the greater of what we're able to experience whenever we're fully unlocked, right?
Yep.
And so I was just like imagining, you know, what is all around me right now, and just trying to picture it, like all the fractals, all the sacred geometry. Maybe there's a being, maybe there's not.
All of the invisible, right?
Like all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all right here. Like just imagine knowing that.
I wonder where that void is then, you know? Because that void that you experienced, that's also here.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's just a matter of the frequency that you're choosing to be in at that moment.
The frequency. Perfect. Yes.
Right?
It's all a frequency. And you know, judging upon what you're feeling or what you're thinking or whatever, that's the frequency you tuned into.
You could be there too, right?
And that's literally how this reality works. You know, like for anybody that has read any of those like self-help type, you know, books that he was mentioning earlier in that video, you know, that like, oh, it's all around you. You just got to change your mind and change your attitude and, you know, think positive. And, you know, then the world just starts to transform itself and almost bends itself to your will in a sense. And it's like, bro, that's how all that shit's able to happen because of all of the other shit that's already here.
Yep.
You know, all of the wheels and all the spokes that are in the machine that the machine elves are working on.
Yeah.
You know, they're just like
the management company, right?
Yeah, they're just over there like, oh, he's going more positive. Let me crank this baby up a little bit.
Right, let me get it going a little bit, dude. That's cool. I love that.
Yeah, fun shit.
Cool.
All right, well,
shit,
I guess we'll wrap her up right there. That was a fun one, dude.
That was, man. I feel like that was needed, you know? And now I actually do feel a little bit more driven to try the DMT, bro. You know, because maybe that's what I'm missing. You know, who knows? You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. That's what a wise philosopher once said.
They did say that.
But anyway, all right. Well, I guess we'll boogie up out of here, and we'll see y'all on the flip side.
We'll see you guys.
Voices drift on winds untamed. Words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Journey where no bounds are found. Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.